dipshit. I'm sorry, I'm a dipshit. is what I like about you. Your perky, pouting lips, oh, put your love on me. Oh, I beg and bribe to get to you, but how much can I pay? Oh, jump on the direct express, let's make it right. Don't be a spoiled brat, baby, get out tonight. Jump on the direct express, let's make it right. Don't be a spoiled brat, baby, get out tonight. Oh, get out tonight. Oh, come on, baby, you know what I want. Jump on the direct express, let's make it right. Don't be a spoiled brat, baby, get out tonight. Jump on the direct express, let's make it right. Don't be a spoiled brat, baby, get out tonight. Ooh, yeah. Shackleton, you know what I want. Oh,
Counting the days until summer, feeling the warm rays upon my face. Leave all my worries in a gentle breeze. Big sunshine and new life in the way I need. Counting the days until summer, feeling the warm rays upon my face. Leave all my worries in a gentle breeze. Big sunshine and new life in the way I need. I've always admired those who just do it, and they conquered their fears. They fall back down and they keep getting up, and they try to steer clear. I'm afraid, I'll admit. What if I'm stuck in my mind? I'm not great, neither rich, but will you stay here by my side? All the good times turn into memories, and the revelry goes on. Let's
The audio should be working just fine. Yeah, I can hear everybody. Okay. Yeah, I'm Grid One Motorsports. I just comment on the internet, debate occasionally, and yeah, that's about it. I have a channel.
But today we're learning about the economy. And I also got my degree in economics, so hopefully that actually helps somewhat.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And we got Wick.
Yeah, yo, what up, my G's? It's your boy Wick here, shouting out all the cool things that Wicks do. No, today we're here to talk about the economy, and my name is Wick, and that's what I am. That's what I'm doing. So here we are.
Thank you so much. And we will have one more join us. They're just running a few minutes late, but that'll be all right. Let's get into it. Is the economy going well? Is it bad? Is there a method to Trump's madness? Who knows? Hopefully one of these people do. We can discuss it. Let's talk about it. We'll start with Tyler. What do you think?
It's been pretty rocky for the last few years. It looks like the post-COVID spending, restarting the economy, and a bunch of other factors, some of it being the Biden administration's fault, some of it being the Trump administration's fault, have led to some not so great times. I gotta defer to polling like I always do and say nobody's happy with the economy now. They're slightly happier under Trump, but it's not very much. It's only like 5 points higher. So something needs to give. We need to get some reprieve for high prices and a first priority over immigration, I feel like would really swing things more in Trump's direction, but it's not good.
All right. Thank you so much. Grid.
Yeah, okay. I think Trump came in hot. He's been stymied by the existing powers that be, pillars of whatever you want to call it, the Congress or whatever, however you want to look at it. It's all fine. We can get into that in detail. The one thing is that, as far as the economy goes, he is making good on his campaign promises of, for example, border security and deportations, middle-class tax relief. There's a 10% rate reduction proposed for earners under 150K. That's pending in Congress, obviously, so he can only do so much. But yeah, I mean, I think, honestly, I really can't add a lot to what Tyler said beyond just that. So there we go. Let's roll with it.
Thank you so much. Non-fun.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're seeing is not actually that right now. It's not actually that different from the last, 4 years or whatever, where the hard data around the economy appears to be pretty decent. We have the payrolls report was above expectations. The jobless claims that just came out were basically about expectations. But if you look at consumer sentiment, I think that's falling. If you look at sort of the soft data and the vibes, all that seems to be down. And I will say, I think it's rational for people and firms to anticipate worse times incoming because of the things that Trump is doing, like tariffs. And I would also like a clear answer from every conservative here, because I'm very worried about what would happen if Trump fired Jerome Powell. And I want to know, would these people support Trump or support Trump's decision to fire Jerome Powell, for monetary policy reasons?
Thank you so much. Yeah, and just ignore my cat. He's doing the Elon salute. No judgment. He might have been, reincarnated as somebody. Who knows? Thornhorn.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that like the kind of steps that have been taken so far have been to the detriment of the U.S. economy at this point. From kind of top to bottom, on what I've seen, it's not really anything that's conducive towards a roaring great economy, and using tariffs as like a bargaining chip to play with the stock market and stuff, not great. So
Thank you so much. And Wick.
Yeah, so one of the things that I've learned in the last couple months about the economy is that there is a crash the economy button. I didn't know it existed, but I do know now. And Trump hit that button as hard as he could. We're seeing the stock market plunge. It's recovered a little bit, but it's still way down. 10-year yields on treasury bonds are spiking. That's not good, gang. The value of the dollar is plummeting. Also not good, especially not good when combined with the 10-year Treasury bond thing, right? We're seeing mortgage prices, they're up to a little over 7% interest rates now. That's expected to go up. Powell has recently given several speeches and things like that where he says that the Fed is anticipating a spike in interest rates, a slump in job productivity and growth. So, yeah, that's where we're at. And we didn't have to be here. Most of this is coming from, again, Trump's economic policy, which is a combination of incompetent and cruel. But here we are, and I'm ready to talk about it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. All right, let's open it up. Fight, boys. What do y'all think? Who's at fault?
right.
What's going on? Go ahead, Tyler.
First off, after Non-Fon's opening, I need to know his stance on pineapples on pizza. It's extremely important to this economic discussion as well. I want to go with, we're looking at, like, I'm throwing aside the partisan politics for a minute here. What we saw under the first Biden administration was, and again, it was before climate policy. He thought it was good. That's what people voted for at the time. I'm not knocking that in particular. And also the Saudis, the big Democratic talking point because of Jamal Khashoggi was to go after the Saudis. So those early actions isolated one of our big energy imports, and then on top of that, there was a lot of messaging to ban fracking, and then it got rolled back a bit. And the 12-year transition off of fossil fuels, certain regulations put in place that made investment into these oil companies and gas companies fall off pretty hard in 2020 because of the market messaging that was going on there and the acts of the administration out of the first year. So what we saw from that was every $10 the cost of oil went up per barrel, we saw inflation go up like 0.2, 0.3%. So just the cost of a barrel right now being around 55, when it got up to 100, that right there is about a full point of inflation on its own. It's because all this distribution we need because of that oil.
But you do know why the price of oil was up and gas was up,
Several
right?
reasons. That was
But one of the reasons was that they were anticipating, right, a booming economy, right? When gas prices go up, it's because it at least this index of it, right? I'm not talking at your pump, but when people are buying the barrels and things, the futures in the barrels, they're anticipating a lot of demand for gas, right? A lot of demand for this energy, trucking, transportation, etc. It's generally, again, it's a little more complicated than this, right? But it's generally a sign of a healthy economy.
No, I got to call you out on that one, Wick. The reason I got to call you out on that one. That's bullshit. The reason the gas and oil prices went up is because we started offshoring our oil production again. We shut down most of the oil production in the United States, which drove because
what about Alaska?
We drove back in 2003, 4, 5 through basically 2010.
Okay,
we drove
I'm not talking
the
about
price of barrels
4,
down.
5. I'm talking about the last 5 years. Let's stick to that.
Wait,
Well, hold on. If it's pertinent to the overall trend, you would be my way.
It is pertinent to the overall trend. The United States drove the price of oil down below $50 a barrel. Actually, this was 2010, 2012, I guess, in that area. We drove it down below the price of $50 a barrel. The entire world was about to lose their minds. They went insane. So as soon as possible, they wrecked that. They literally shut down oil production in the United States to drive the price of oil back up. And that's why this bullshit that you're spewing about futures and economic game plan and all of that is bullshit. Dude, don't come in.
Also, it was coming out of the biggest recession of like recent history too, and that's when the economy was actually starting to activate again, right around that time.
That would be why. Yes. And so this idea, right, that one of the indicators of the coming recession, right, is the fact that oil prices are plummeting. Because again, investors are anticipating a slowdown in the economy, that there's not going to be as much demand for energy, gas, etc., and going into like trucking, shipping, etc. And it is a red flag, if you will, right? So you can talk about production, and that's fair, but at least during Biden's term, we've seen some of the biggest increases in energy production in my home state of Pennsylvania, for example.
That doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah, I think Biden did run on clean energy.
If that's not talking about the last 5 years.
Hold on.
Talking about the last 5 years.
When we were seeing the cost of energy spike, like we see all the time, things spike when we run out of supply. What we do is import. So, when we ran out of eggs, we went and imported a bunch of eggs and drove the cost down 60%. So in this instance, we would send somebody maybe to one of our trade allies that we import energy from, like OPEC, which we did over a dozen times. Tony Blinken went and met with the Saudis and OPEC and was denied every single time because of Biden's year one actions, isolating the Saudis, taking the Houthis off the terror watch list, and stop selling the Saudis weapons, etc., etc. I got a bunch of other things, which ended up biting him in the ass with Israel. But regardless, him isolating our ally, our soft power connection, and our trade ally in the Middle East screwed over our oil prices. And we can see from the Trump administration that is their number one thing, is bringing down the cost of energy and also exporting it. Right now we're in talks with the EU to export the rest of the natural gas that they bring in so they can completely cut off Russian energy imports. And that would also help balance that trade deficit Trump hates so much. So in a way, upgrading our energy and being able to sell it to Japan, who also said out loud multiple times that they were seeking energy from the Biden administration and could not even get anyone on the phone. Trump is like, hell yeah, we'll take that deal. Come on in and buy our energy. Shit, we're even going into coal now. It's good for the economy long term.
I don't entirely disagree, but I think this is why Biden sort of walked back a lot of the things that he had said about clean energy. And like, look, he did have, the Inflation Reduction Act and things in the Chips and Science Act that I think invested in clean energy. But he did also approve a lot of fracking. I think he approved like more permits than Trump did. He dipped into the strategic oil reserve to try to bring down oil prices when we needed it, when we needed to do that.
Well, that's the leftist popular play, is to dip into the strategic oil reserves. They do it every single time when they need to lower energy cost, rather than let us drill.
Literally the point.
And rather than let companies drill, American companies drill off our own coast in the Gulf of America. They let.
Where is that exactly?
Again, we're drilling more oil under Biden than like any country in the history of ever, right? Like,
I don't believe that was true. Can you?
Actually, I mean, you can just look it up. Like, U.S. biggest oil.
It's not just energy under Biden. Manufacturing was beginning to see a renaissance, right? Productivity in manufacturing was shooting through the roof. That's, again, it's not yet, right? Because we're anticipating.
Wait, hold on.
But that's kind of going down now. Right? A lot of people are.
We have literally in just the last couple of months, we now have GE, Intel, and most auto suppliers are talking about, or not, either have or are on the path to expanding or opening plants in Ohio, Texas, South Carolina, because of Trump's tariffs, because of the way that things are going, because of the plans that he's made. And those are the jobs that you guys are talking about that weren't here. The manufacturing jobs, they weren't here. They're coming back. If you want that, that's the Wall Street Journal Industry Index, March 2025. The Chinese are, the rare earth metals that the Chinese have us by the balls over, which is what you guys really should be talking about from a leftist point of view. We're trying to reduce that. The only place in America that we have rare earth metals is outside of Nowheresville, California. And so this all affects our economy. And you guys are talking about fucking irrelevant bullshit. Come on, man. Let's get into it, man. Get dirty. Get into the meat of the argument and stop bullshitting around it.
There was a $300 million recycling plant that recently in my home state was shut down because of Trump's economic policy, specifically the tariffs and his gutting, or Doge's gutting of grants and things. To
that's a great point.
And these things. We lost a $300 million plant contract, right? Which was going to employ thousands of people. Pennsylvania is really getting hit hard by some of these tariffs. And I got to tell you, right, it's not going to be good for the pocketbook of the worker when investors can't really rely on America to know what kind of policy.
Let me just ask a question. I'm actually going to give it to Nonfon because it's actually because you said this before, I think, on a previous econ panel, Nonfon. You had mentioned that you didn't disagree that with the tariffs, you would hurt one industry and another industry would grow. Like, I might be paraphrasing you correctly. You agree that could be a possible outcome, right? Is this not a similar situation, Wick, where you mentioned your recycling plant closed, but like me, for example, beef is booming, right? Like, do you disagree that this is a scenario in which, and then after you answer, Wick, then we'll go to Nonfon.
No, here's the deal.
Beef's been booming for a lot of other reasons that have been just like culminating up to this at this point. So that's not entirely just like Trump.
Well,
That
it's a lot of it, but
aside,
we can go into that.
in principle, yes, tariffs can increase jobs in some sectors, but the argument and the data shows that overall tariffs specifically hurt job growth.
I
In
disagree.
whatever country
We've grown
employs them.
115,000 jobs since
You may
January.
disagree,
Wick.
but we have
The numbers
decades
don't back you
of
up. We have
data.
115,000 new jobs
Grid.
since January, Wick.
And how
Go
many
ahead.
of them are we going to lose
Absolutely
because of these
back 'em
tariffs?
up. What
These
do you-
tariffs didn't hit till April. You understand that, right? These tariffs
Okay,
weren't in
but
place
since
in January.
we've had jobs growth. And
Okay, we
Grid,
don't
you're
know
saying
the job
so,
numbers
you're
for
saying in the
April.
last 2 weeks the
Horrible.
tariffs
It
hit and
doesn't-
we've lost
just
so many
because-
jobs in the last 2 weeks. Come on, Wick. Don't be that disingenuous. Don't be that big.
Grid, there were plenty of times where we grew where we had even more jobs when we didn't have tariffs. It's obviously dumb to say that because we got a good payrolls report, because we got some good jobs report, that the tariffs are therefore responsible for those jobs. If you look at actual papers from actual economists who understand what they're saying and do actual multivariable regressions, things like that, guess what? They all say that tariffs reduce overall employment. And we have very good reasons to believe, like theoretically, why that would be the case. And I would also point out that we have surveys from both the Philadelphia Fed and the New York Federal Reserve. Both of them have surveys for manufacturers, and they surveyed them after the Liberation Day tariffs. We got these, reports 2 days ago, and they both expect all these manufacturers expect their business to slow down in the coming 6 months. They expect new orders to drop.
So I have a question. Hold on. I have a question real quick. So I've heard the complaint that under Biden, I made it myself. So that's who heard. I heard it from. Was that a lot of the jobs were basically the gig economy jobs versus what we're getting under Trump is going to be long-term manufacturing jobs. Do y'all disagree with that idea, or is it are we looking past this? Are we saying, oh no, lost gig jobs and gained better ones? No, you don't agree with that, or what are your thoughts?
I think that I kind of disagree with that in certain aspects to it, just because the Trump administration hadn't really kind of done the soft work to actually implement a transition away from international markets into something that can be manufactured and built inside the United States, and actually did the groundwork to make those tariffs actually viable for making actual American jobs. So at this point, I don't think that that really is showing up. It's just we just tariffed a bunch of shit and we have no other alternate, so it's just fuck the consumer on that.
I mean, I appreciate you saying words that don't mean anything, but again, Intel.
I appreciate you saying words that don't mean anything either. So yeah, it's really cool.
Reshoring jobs and expanding plants. Ohio, Texas,
Mexico,
South Carolina, and my home
it's
state of
pretty good
Tennessee
time.
are all seeing either new plants or an expansion of existing plants because we're reshoring those jobs. Now, if Intel, GE,
there are 5 U.S. auto plants that have just laid off people due to tariff-related incidences. The auto plants that supply factories in Canada and Mexico, because the way free trade works, right, or the way our trade system works, is we have a lot of plants in America that manufacture the parts for auto plants offshore, right, in Canada and in Mexico and these specific places. But because they have to get the goods from Canada, and they assemble it here, and it goes back to Canada, they're getting hit with tariffs, right? And so they're laying off people because it just doesn't make sense to have such an interconnected logistical system now. So what you're going to see is a lot of plants are going to go and simply only deal with one country now because they don't want to get hit with these tariffs over and back and again.
Good, they can go work
for every job we're going to grow here. And I'm not saying we're not going to grow 0 jobs here, but for every job we're going to grow here.
Well, actually, the numbers say that you're wrong right out of the gate. That we are growing jobs. Okay, you get laid off at one job, you get another job, right? I mean, that's how that works. It's blue collar life.
Oh yeah, it's easy to get another job once you're laid off. What?
Well, hold on. Wait, didn't Biden tell all the oil workers just find another job when he caused all of them?
You think that was good of him to do?
I don't know. Biden's your hero. You tell me.
Do you think he did correctly in that instance? I don't.
I mean, yeah, I would say no.
Okay, so when it's happening now, do you think it's wise for Trump to tell the people who are losing their jobs now to be like, oh, just learn the code?
He hasn't told them that. He didn't say that.
Go ahead.
Trump is saying just fuck off, right, and die.
No, Trump is
that's what
Trump is saying that we are going to bring jobs back and there will be jobs available. and he is doing that.
Okay, so
Point of
I'm
fact.
fine. Then Tyler, go ahead.
So I mean, number one, this, citing all these payroll reports, rings hollow when you guys were deciding the BLS job numbers were fake for like Ola Biden's term. We
I
had
think
a
they were
lot
fake.
of good payroll reports under Biden,
I
and you
never said
didn't
they
give
were
Biden
fake.
any credit. You
That-
certainly didn't say it was because of free trade we had all
Don't
those
my
jobs.
argument like that. I never said they were fake.
Your side did, absolutely. But anyway,
Well,
even if you
my
specifically
side
didn't,
is irrelevant to this argument. The points that I have made are relevant to the
Now,
argument.
hold on. Was Biden's economy
well,
good?
I'm about
in
to
your
I'm
opinion?
about to address
Ask
the
him.
point you made.
That's a
but-
great
just
question
ask
to
him. Ask
ask
him
me.
directly.
You should have asked me. You should have started there. I feel like I'm teaching a class on debate here. Yeah, you should have started there. You should have started with, what is your position on the Biden economy? I don't think Biden's advisors did a particularly horrible job on the economy. The economy wasn't why we needed to get rid of it.
Oh,
Okay,
that's-
so
that's
hold
fair.
on.
The
I also just want,
socialist
like, your
aspect of his
your-
was a problem.
Your causal inference is so broken. That's the point I'm attacking. Is that you don't give Biden any credit for like all the good payroll reports we had under him.
Because
but,
we
like,
weren't
now
talking
we have
about
good
Biden. We were talking about
we have
Trump
good
and
payroll.
today.
We have good payroll.
You keep
we have good payroll reports.
Biden,
We
and
have
I'm
good.
talking about what
We
the
have
economy
good.
is
Hey,
right
hold on, Grant.
So I
Let's
understand
not-
we
let's
have
not
good
talk about
payroll
that.
reports
There we go,
now,
Tyler.
but you're saying that like clearly these numbers support that all the tariffs are working because we're growing so many jobs, and it's like again, there are all jobs just generally have like an upward trend growth because output generally has an upward trend. Obviously, like every month we're probably going to add a decent amount of jobs regardless of whether or not we have tariffs, unless we fall into an actual recession. But look, again, every like empirical study, and I can cite you the models that would make us believe this as well, say that tariffs typically lead to a net job loss because they protect jobs in some sectors
How long
at
does
the
that
cost of jobs in other sectors. If you want, I can walk you through, Grade. We can.
How
I
long
will
does
hold
that
hands with you
take
and walk you
typically?
through. For what?
for the tariffs to have a negative effect on the economy? How long does that take?
Most of
Pretty
it.
sure the
I
stock
mean,
market crashed when it happened. But
Yeah.
that's just like one small part of it.
It's like almost
some
Well-
effects like that are going to be
Oh, so you're
immediate,
saying
and then some
immediate.
effects are going to be longer term.
You're
Some
saying like
effects
that
are
was
immediate.
one.
Some
so
other
hold
things are
on,
longer
hold
term.
on. Okay, first of all, I can only address one person at a time. That's okay.
Well, yeah. So
I thought
Yeah.
that you were just like super cool and could do everyone. Just
I,
kidding.
no,
you
yeah.
know, I'm not an OnlyFans model, bro. I can't do you all at once.
Yeah, maybe they got skills they could teach. Maybe they should be giving some seminars. I'm
Yeah.
gonna ask a question real quick, and then I want to go to Tyler here because he's been waiting. But
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
I've seen the argument. Yeah, sorry, Grit. And then we'll go back to you, I guess. Don't worry, everybody get in there. Just write down the notes that you can start. That way you can respond to everybody. I was to say I've seen people argue that the dip with what you see is an initial dip whenever you have tariffs, and then the market after a few days or weeks or whatever will adjust back, and that's what they call a correction. Do we disagree with maybe that being an assessment where we have like shocking news and we shouldn't take the market as, oh, it's all falling apart from something shocking, and then after the news goes into effect, it changes? Let's go to Tyler, then I see you raising your hand as well. Wick, go ahead.
All right, so I got a few things because there was a lot of stuff being discussed by people, a lot of it all at once. Overall, it is proven that tariffs in aggregate do hurt jobs. Generally, I've looked up a lot on here. I've tried to see, like, generally they say it's going to hurt the service sector a little bit more. I don't know enough about the deep economics to argue that, but that's just what I've kind of come up with other people saying. The tariffs alone are a tool. If Trump just put these tariffs in place and walked away, absolutely none of the things that Grid is counting as a win would have happened. So you have to look at the larger picture of what he's trying to do with these things. I think personally, I hear you guys saying what Trump's intent is. I think listening to Trump's speeches and Trump's daily comments and the White House press office and shit every single day, this is a united front to decouple from China. And he just said like 2 days ago that we're preparing for war with China, and that's why we're taking such extreme actions to push us and our Western allies away from them in Russia. So that to me is the end goal of all this. But what we're seeing is the tariffs in Taiwan. To Taiwan were proposed. 25% tariff to Taiwan for what Trump said was stealing our chip industry. What we saw after that was a $500 billion investment from a deal that Trump had worked out with the Taiwanese chip company to build here. Same thing with Apple. We're going to start tariffing. China. You get an exemption for now because it's impossible for you to transition immediately. But in a few years, that exemption is going to be gone. They're building a plant in Texas for $200 billion with 22,000 jobs, and they're also building a trading facility in Detroit. So if you start looking at this, it's not just the tariffs alone. It's the tariffs bringing people to the table so that we can have these tailored different discussions. And what we're seeing with Canada and Mexico in particular And now we're seeing it with other nations too. It was just reported. These negotiations, Trump is specifically asking these countries to put up tariffs against China. He's been very vocal about it with Mexico and Canada, asking them to put up barriers against the Chinese infringement, finding a loophole in USMCA. So at the end of the day, this is kind of what the goal actually is to decouple from China.
Okay.
We're gonna wick the grid. Yeah,
Sure.
go ahead.
I want to answer your question first before
Yeah.
I forget, Admiral Gibbs, but then I do want to address Tyler's points.
Go ahead.
But to your question about how much should we trust the stock how much of the stock market dip was indicative of a larger problem with the economy? I think people are correct when they say the stock market isn't the economy. But what it is it's an indicator of how people feel the economy is going to be in the future, right? People invest in stocks when they feel that these companies are going to do well. I'm talking in general. I'm not talking shorts and stuff like that, but we're talking general here. Stick with me. And they divest from the stock markets and retreat to things like bonds when they feel that the stock of the economy is going to slow down. It's going to do more poorly. So while we can track when the stock market dropped in the last month, and when it started to recover, and every single time was based on statements about the tariffs from people within the administration, specifically Trump, and actions based on that. After Liberation Day, we had a huge decrease, but the market rallied a little bit when it was reported, falsely at first, that Trump was looking to kind of back off these tariffs. And when he backed off a little bit, or reportedly backed off a little bit, we had a little bit of a recovery, and that's been kind of going down since then. So to answer your question, how much should we look to the stock market? I think it's an indicator. It's one of many, but it is something we can't ignore. So does that answer your question? I hope it does. To Tyler, right, specifically, when we talk about decoupling from China, I don't know if that's I'm not necessarily against that as a goal. But can at least you admit that the way he is going about it is probably not ideal?
Too big of a bite of the apple is the way I frame it in my argument. He took too big of a bite of the apple on the world stage, yes.
We can understand how perhaps on occasion a tariff for national security purposes on steel or on electric vehicles or on various other industries, perhaps. But that's not what he did. He tariffed literally everyone in a way that was obviously ill thought out, and then he kept playing footsie with it. Will I do it? Will I not? And this has created gross instability within the market, which is going to hurt everyone. People aren't investing anymore, right? People aren't going to start businesses anymore. And I'm not talking about people who can get exemptions like Apple, right? Or Microsoft or all these other places. I'm talking about mom and pops who don't have the connection, right, that a big corporation would. Because another, and this is just supposition, I don't know it for a fact, but my hypothesis here is another reason Trump has been doing the tariffs is so that he can act as a kingmaker and pick winners and losers among corporations. And if a corporation donates to him or his buddies, they'll get an exemption. And if they don't, well, you're out of luck, buddy.
That's really,
and I find that un-American.
Well, that's really interesting, actually, Wick. This may have been a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I'm willing to dive down for a second. So, have y'all seen the Autopilot app?
Autopilot app? No.
I've been playing with it quite a bit recently, and Dan Crenshaw and Nancy Pelosi. Thank y'all. Y'all have made me a fuck ton of money. I gotta say, appreciate it. But the app tracks Congress people's.
I have heard of it. I didn't know it was called Autopilot, but I have heard of that app. Yes,
it's really cool, and you can put like a certain amount of money in there, and it'll it'll ratio out the percentage to what like they invest in what based off like how big you are. So if you put like $1,000 in there and they invest $1 million, it'll like basically do what it can to match that like per like whatever's the word ratio, is to it, and it's pretty interesting. So like I know a lot of people say they want money out of politics entirely. What do you like? Do you have a problem with like Trump being a kingmaker if that knowledge is publicly available and we can all benefit from it?
Let's look at
because it doesn't. Well, I guess just to finish that thought, because it doesn't seem like it necessarily is like insider trading. If anybody can do it, like if I at the same time, right? Like because it's automatically tracking it. If I have an AI that can track everybody's moves, and all of a sudden all the senators are making a move towards one thing, and that info is publicly available, is that insider trading?
I think it is, and I'll tell you why. I think that, well, not specifically the instance you mentioned,
Sure,
but I
right.
think that the instance where Trump rolled back the tariffs initially, causing the market recovery, at least to an extent, there was a bit of a rally. We saw some very interesting statements or some interesting bets being made, investments in the stock market, right? We saw people put up bets basically that the market would recover within 24 hours. They're very high risk bets, and they did it moments before the Trump rolled back his tariffs, or at least announced he was going to kind of be a little bit less harsh with those tariffs. He upped it against China, but that's neither here nor there.
So-
Earlier in the day, he had texted, now is a good day to invest, right? But that was very vague, very unclear. I would not be shocked, and again, we don't know this, there'll have to be an investigation, and there should be an investigation, but I would not be shocked that this was a form of market manipulation done by the president in order to make the people in his inner circle very, very rich.
So
Because these aren't bets that someone normally would make. I think there's some evidence to suggest that there is some insider trading going on, and I think that should be prosecuted. Do I think it will? No, but I do think it
so
is.
you're saying abnormal bets are your backing for this fishing expedition. But okay, real quick. So doing personal favors for your buddies. Under Biden, there was an EV tax cut put out that gave you $5,000 extra off if you bought your EV from a union instead of just a normal dealer. The unions being one of the largest donators, a giant special interest group for the Democratic Party. Not only that, Biden was putting tariffs 100% on China, but other countries as well, on their EVs to make sure we were only selling US-based EVs, upping the sales of US-based EVs and then giving people a $5,000 extra cutout if they bought from a union. That is that deal making you're alleging Trump is doing actually in policy, where their special interest got a particular handout that nobody else had access to. And I heard it was a good thing. So,
And on top of that, the EVs in America are like absolute crap compared to a lot of other competition throughout the world. Just
I-
a side note, but
cool. I've been watching videos.
Yeah.
Again,
I've
I'm
heard
not I'm not
I don't know
someone
for
who
sure,
will
no.
sit here and say everything that Biden did was correct and right and perfectly righteous, and he was an angel.
Should
What
we
I
have an
am
investigation?
saying,
You specifically said prosecution, and
For
what I
again,
would honestly
insider
say,
trading.
there's actual proof of collusion. That's what it is. And what we call is collusion. When you go to somebody and say, "Hey, back me, and I'm going to give you a cut from the government." That's
the
called
unions
collusion.
did not back
I mean,
Biden.
look, every
And that, of course,
politician
you
is
can't,
probably
you
2020
can't
they did.
prosecute Biden because he's mentally incompetent, right? You can't
True.
prosecute the
But
guy.
Well,
look,
he's
every
competent enough
politician
to
is-
apparently do these backroom deals, but not competent enough for.
Well,
you
a
to
judge
actually
found him
go forward.
incompetent. Are you
Schrodinger's
arguing
Schrodinger's
that?
Biden.
Are you
here.
This is
arguing that? Are you
pre-2020. That
arguing
was
that a judge
years
found him incompetent?
Are you
It was,
talking about
it was
the
her.
report?
It was her. He's not a judge, the prosecutor.
Not a judge.
Oh, as a prosecutor? Oh,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But look,
It was
every
His legal
prosecutorial-
authority
prosecutorial
found him.
discretion,
You know, I for real.
every
you
But
know,
again, this is all deflection, and this is
Not
going to happen
deflection.
again and again. And
You
again during
brought
this
it up,
conversation.
Wick. That's
I'm
not
going to bring up. I'm going to bring up
Every-
It's
Trump.
directly
Trump is-
answering your
Hold on, if I may
argument,
finish,
Wick.
if I may
You
finish.
can't mute us.
I'm going to bring up
today,
Trump
pal.
and something
You're
Trump
gonna
has
get the
done that I
heat.
think
You're
is
gonna
wrong,
get
and they're going to be
no.
what about?
You
And I
literally
want you to put a
said
counter on the
Trump should be
screen. Whenever I
prosecuted,
bring up something
and-
Trump does
and
wrong,
literally
just wait for the what
collusion,
about.
You didn't say wrong.
Take a drink.
You
right? We'll take a
speculated
drink.
something
Well,
was
what
done
about?
wrong.
Wick,
There's
you're
nothing
a
he did
joke,
wrong.
pal. You're a joke.
There's nothing he did wrong. You flat out said that there's nothing
Let's
he
see
did
if I
wrong.
get
You're
wrong.
thinking based on your guess that there's something wrong. You're saying there should
Yes,
be
I
an
think there should be an
investigation. So
investigation
there's
into what
you're
happened on
nothing Trump did wrong. You
the
want an
day that
investigation
Biden-
and
or
prosecution.
not, I'm sorry, Biden, not Biden. You got me
Proof
saying
that Biden did something that's what you're alleging Trump is doing, and you're like, no big deal, no investigation.
think these
needed.
are
It's actually
similar?
a distraction. That's
look,
you think
hold
these
on.
are the
I
same
think every
thing?
so every poli-
No, I think
Hold
it's
on,
worse.
let-
I think
Wick-
Biden's is
Wick-
worse. He didn't give a fuck.
Okay.
Go
So,
ahead, Wick, and then we'll go to non-fun. Go ahead.
yeah,
again, making a policy position for an American industry is much different than telling your buddy down the street, "Hey, I'm about to do a thing. You better
Okay,
put $1
prove
million
that.
into the stock market
Prove
today."
it fucking happened.
These are
You're guessing.
different.
You're
saying
making shit up. You're shadow boxing.
I'm not making shit up.
Yes, you
I'm
are. You're
saying that
demanding
there should be, as other
Show me
politics,
proof. Show me proof.
an
Show me proof.
Hold
into
on, let him answer.
alleged, right? And I'm being careful with my words here. The alleged insider trading that I think that Trump might be guilty of. I think there should be an investigation, and it's surprising that you don't.
I don't, because there's no proof to start the
Hold on.
investigation. That's called a phishing.
I actually made money on
That's
that
not
deal. Just
Hold
as
on, hold
standard for opening an investigation. It's not
Go,
that high,
Nafon, then we'll
but-
go to you. Go ahead, Nafon.
Yeah, look, I'm sure every politician is going to engage in type of, quid pro quos to like some extent. And I, to be honest, I'm not sure of the legality of, for example, a union supporting Biden because Biden says they're going to do a pro-union policy by giving tax credits to union businesses. I don't know the legality of that, but I do know insider trading is, for the most part, illegal. And I think it's fair to ask for an investigation. And I also want to reply to Tyler's point about the
Well, hold on.
decoupling from China,
Can
which
I ask
we-
you a question, Nafon, real quick
Sure,
before you
oh
move
boy.
on?
I would.
Do you think that's? I mean, this is once again a little bit of a little rabbit hole, but for funsies, do you see any fundamental difference between that and saying Biden going, "Hey, vote me in, the checks will go out tomorrow"? Do you see any fundamental difference between the two of him saying, "Hey, to the union, you're going to get a cut"?
I see. I mean, there's a little bit of difference in that, like, giving unions money is like one specific, like, special interest
Sure.
that he's giving money to, and the rest is just like he thinks this is going to be good for America as a whole, or whatever. The stimulus checks. I would say, I mean, the latter is probably less corrupt and probably better, right? But
Sure.
I mean,
I was just curious, but you go on with what you were
look,
saying.
I believe like the term lobbyist, I believe, actually originates from people who would go into Congress as lobby when they were debating the tariff schedule, and they would all lobby for tariffs on their specific goods, and they would lobby to not have their competitors be tariffed or whatever. They were or their inputs to be tariffed and all that. And look, we have a paper. I think there's a paper. I wish I knew the authors of it off the top of my head. That literally found that like steel firms or manufacturers who donated to Republicans were more likely to get exemptions from the steel tariffs. So I do think that obviously tariffs like give Trump the ability to be kingmaker and do these quid pro quos or whatever. And just to go back to the decoupling from China, I mean, I think Wick is correct in that this is absolutely not the way you should be doing it, even if this is Trump's goal, which, again, I'm not convinced that he has a solid plan behind everything because his advisors all contradict each other.
There's a lot of post hoc rationalization of his plan so that anything that
Right.
happens, that was a brilliant plan all along, right? But anyway.
But look, if you want to decouple from China, there are definitely a lot of goods that I would want to decouple from China. And I would say, one, you shouldn't be tariffing everything from China because the more you tariff, the more you're going to lead to what's called exchange rate appreciation, which basically makes the dollar more expensive, and that basically negates some of the effect of the tariff because it allows our currency to buy more foreign currency, which means the imports are cheaper. That's not happening right now because Trump's policies are also causing a fuck ton of uncertainty. So all these foreign investors are dumping their dollars. That's why we saw bonds going up. That's why we saw the dollar falling. That's why we saw stocks falling. And we know, we have studies. We have, studies from the IMF and the World Bank and the OECD, and also a bunch of, papers from Trump's first term that show uncertainty reduces business
The
investment.
IMF that
in
literally
aggregate.
depresses other nations' currencies so that ours is better.
Based,
Oh,
first of all?
there are. I mean, there are.
I mean,
reasons
it's
to do
literally
that.
its
So the
job
reason-
is to
so,
topple
Grid, the reason,
nations.
Grid, that's not true. Grid, the
Okay,
reason the
come on.
IMF, to an
Okay.
extent, does that, I'm sure the IMF has in the past.
To
said
an extent,
countries
it
should
does that.
devalue its
So in
currency
one
in
breath,
world
you say
markets.
that's not
So the
true, and in the next breath, you say to an
Oh,
extent
do you
that's
think-
true.
Do you think
So
it's a
it's not
good
true-
thing
it's
that
not
we
true
are
that
the
the
world's
IMF
reserve currency? The U.S. dollar is the world's reserve currency.
Wait,
Do you
real
think that's
quick.
good?
Can I?
No,
like,
I'm
it's a
a non-interventionist. I'm not a globalist.
Cringe. But look, I mean, to the extent that the IMF tells countries to devalue their currency in world markets, it's
Anytime
because
you
that
want
helps
to
their exports, and they
debate
believe.
interventionist versus non-interventionist, I am down.
Oh, good.
So
Well,
the
we'll
IMF
figure that
basically-
out
We
later.
the
will
IMF
set up
exists to
something
bail
next
out
week for
countries.
that. But
Yeah.
I'll contact you. But anyway,
Yeah.
go ahead, Namfon.
I do actually own property in China, but I'm
IMF
kind of shooting myself in my own foot. But
The IMF exists to basically bail out countries that are in crises, and to the extent that they tell countries to devalue their currency in world markets, it's because they believe that doing so will help their exports, which will in turn stabilize their economy. There are genuine good reasons to do that, and it does, as Wick says, like help our own dollar as well, and helps us buy, imports from their country, and that's probably good for us as well. But
Yeah, I just. Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, go ahead. I was gonna give it the grid because I know I told him he was next, but
Yeah, no,
If
it's
he wants
cool.
to-
So a couple of things right out of the gate. First of all, I
Gotcha.
actually made money on those dips too. And I don't
I
know
did as well.
Trump, and he's never given me a fucking stock tip. I wish the bastard would, but he won't take my calls because he's a fucking president. Should I be part of this investigation, Wick? I made a shit ton of money in it.
just to add to their point, I mean, I'm gonna play a little bit of help here. Modi 201. I don't know if y'all know him. Not the sharpest economic tool in the shed, if you know what I mean. And he has made a bunch of money since the dip. So if Modi can make money doing it,
Okay,
Maybe-
we're not
maybe we should
talking
investigate.
about. I made a 20% return on my investment. I'm not talking
No,
about
well,
that
I'm
kind of
talking
money.
about I made
20% ROI? Hell yeah.
Nice.
doubled my
Fuck yeah,
money.
good.
I'm talking about people who turned $10
talking about?
into $1 million.
Yeah,
We're talking order of magnitude
Like Litecoin.
more return on investment than anything you have made. So
Are you
no,
sure?
I don't think that you should. Yes, I am certain
Okay.
that you didn't turn $10 that you put into the stock market into $1 million over that period of time.
Can
I
you
am
give me
certain
an
that that's the
example of
case,
that?
and I will
Just
bet.
like
Yeah, first of all,
$100.
hold on.
Again,
First of all, I
we
love
don't know who
I
made
love
these bets.
hyperbole, but I did in fact turn a few small investments into a bunch of money buying those dips. Now, unfortunately, they keep retracing, which means I go up and then it comes back down. It's an interesting thing. I don't mind when I put in $3,000 and it turns into $50,000 overnight. I like that. But when I lose even $1,000, when it back traces even $1,000, I fucking hate it. I just can't stand it. So I tend to just pull money in and out. But nobody. I don't think that you can identify a single trade that did that, and I challenge you to right now.
Well, that's
You
what
just
the
made a very
investigation's
bold
for, because
statement,
we
and I
have-
challenge you to back it up.
Again, if you listen to me
You
earlier,
literally said
I
that
stated
people
that there were
put
several
$10 in
big-
with Trump
big-
whispering in their
yes,
ear, and
I'm
they made
talking
$1
about
million.
that
So
levels
let's
of
see
investment,
that.
but you
Let's see
won't
that.
let me finish because you just want to keep talking, right? And
I
I'm
think
about to
you're full of
explain
shit.
to you
That's
these
why.
levels of investment. And you can call it bullshit if you want,
It
but
is.
we don't know who did it, but we know that there were several orders placed for very high risk bets that did, again, about $10 to $1 million in scope and scale. People made billions on these specific bets, and it's a very specific type of bet. And the timing, if you go back and look at it, was
This
right
is all very
before-
interesting, but you're not. So the thing about this is it requires specifics. I put my look.
I mean, I can.
Tesla hit
Give you a-
rock fucking bottom. I told people to buy it $115. It went up to $600 a share. I love that shit. Okay. I could have told you that too. I don't like you enough. So, there's a
don't
lot of
need your
different
judgment
things.
studies.
There's a lot of different ways to phrase this out. And people, you're saying that what you're basically saying is a stock went from $100 a share to a penny, and somebody bought $50 of it, and they made $50 million or some shit like that. And that didn't happen.
This
Well,
is
Trey,
not
we
what
have
happened.
the-
and
Zero
not
to
what I'm
zero,
talking about.
zero to hero. That's what I'm picking up.
I'm
To
talking
be
about
clear,
a
we have a
specific
video
type of bet
of-
that isn't just buying.
You have a
stock.
video?
It's placing a bet in the
Ron
market
Khan, you have a
that is
video?
only good for 24 hours.
Let's see the
Yeah,
So if
video. I
something
want the
doesn't
video.
happen within this specific
I
period
want
of
the video.
time, it is null and void.
I demand the
right?
video.
We're not
I
talking
must
about
have
a stock
satisfaction
investment
on
in a
this issue.
specific stock.
Demand the
You
video.
I can send it
understand
in the
that?
group chat,
Maybe
but
you just don't know about
Okay,
investment enough.
I was-
There's a
that
video
topic.
of
I
Trump
will-
standing in the
which is
Oval Office,
lots of
specifically pointing at two people and saying, "This guy made $2.5 billion today, and this guy made $900 million today." Like the day after he, announced
But
the
how many
90-day pause
billion
on
did they put
tariffs.
in
So,
to
like,
I
make
wouldn't mind seeing that video, but I'll tell you what video I would have seen is the $10 to $1 million.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
And I'm
saying.
not saying it because I want a source. I'm saying it because I want to start tracking their stock moves because clearly they know more than I do. And I'm
I
talking
can't
about.
Yeah,
tell
they
you
do.
what video I want to see,
I'm
but it
just
involves
saying.
Wick.
Oh baby, Wick will probably give it
Look,
to you.
you have to pay me a lot more than you're willing to see
Yeah.
any kind of those.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
he's
he
not
said, $1
Destiny.
million.
You know what I'm saying? All right, moving on here. Yeah, all right. So Insider trading. Is it insider trading? Is it not? I guess that's really up for the air. I mean, moving on. Let's talk about some other things.
We have an organization that covers that.
Go ahead.
Called the SEC. They'll figure that shit out. They're scary people.
Aren't they getting defunded?
I mean, most
Or am I
of
just crazy?
the government organizations are getting defunded to some
Oh, right.
degree. I mean, I don't
Okay.
think they're singled out if that's your like point.
No, they aren't singled out. It's across the board for federal government.
And most of it
They're
is
the
their
people that are supposed to
DEI
be
initiatives
investigating this
getting
stuff. So
defunded. They're not defunding.
them having less
on the street.
funding means that there's less actual authority to kind of prosecute
So-
on it.
Well, no, is it not their DEI programs that are being defunded and not the actual operational
There-
organization?
That's
I
some
can
of
tell
it.
you.
Well, I
Some
can-
of it.
Plenty of
No,
agencies.
look it
I'm
up.
gonna be honest. I don't care about the SEC. Moving on. So when we're sitting here talking,
You know what I do? No,
Nobody,
just kidding.
nobody wants to sit here and talk about the SEC unless it's actually like and who's funding DEI. Well, that's not what we're here to talk about today. That shit's boring. Here's what we're going to talk about now. I mean, unless y'all have an economic tie to it, then we can go into it. But I don't want to hear about funding one thing or another. That's another day's topic. Let's talk about other things. I've seen people argue that this is kind of a pay now or pay later situation. With stuff like production and whatnot. We have examples of eggs being higher or lower. I heard yesterday bananas are up 20%, so I looked that up, and that's about 2 cents. So they're up from 26 cents to 28 cents or whatever is what it looked like. I saw the increase was, and people are saying that this is going to hurt the average consumer too much. I've heard many on the right say that the average consumer understands a short-term price increase for long-term gain, and that seems to be the Trump argument. Do we think this is something that's actually happening, or do we think no? Or is it like Thorne said earlier, where he didn't build the soft power and he's immediately going to the hard power and it's going to just crush us and we're not going to be able to build that? What are our thoughts? Let's go ahead.
No, there's a lot of narratives that came out before the tariffs, like the reciprocal tariffs. They were saying if everyone just went down to zero on us and we didn't have to do these, it would be easier. That was shit that was said before the tariffs. This quote from Lutnick was not said before the tariffs. So I would put this up more for Wick's post hoc rationalization. But what Lutnick said, it was a mini forced controlled demolition of the economy, essentially. And it's a market correction to get us on a track that he and Trump both agree on is better in the long term. And Trump said in the State of the Union, there's going to be some suffering ahead. So I would say in that aspect, they're aware of what they're doing to that degree, but it is somewhat of a post hoc rationalization saying we're forcing a recession right now. A mini recession's coming, and we're going to do it in order to make the market bounce back better in the long run.
I mean, look, this is literally, broken window fallacy. Like, we're gonna crash the economy because growth is better afterwards. Like, in the timeline where you don't break the window, you don't have to rebuild the window, and the money that would have been spent on the money that is spent on rebuilding the window goes to other, use cases. And look, we just don't have any good evidence that tariffs are good for long-term gains. Like, we can look at the study that the IMF has. Tariffs over 50 years still reduced employment. They reduced
But we've
output.
had tariffs in
all these
place
things.
over and over
look-
and over again, and they do work.
Yeah, and they were bad. We have studies on them, and they're bad, Grid.
We've
And we have
already got
models
that.
to tell you why they're bad. We have
Okay.
studies from Spain that say that
Look.
Spain had tariffs for 20 years,
Yes,
and they were
tariffs.
bad. And look,
Tariffs.
also,
Okay, you're arguing tariffs as they are. Tariffs are essentially a tax or a sanction in a certain way. Yes, if you tax things more, you're going to get less of them. If you tax more income, you're going to get less people wanting to go out and get income as well. If you tax more carbon, you're going to have less carbon emissions. That's the idea of a tax. And yes, so if we slap this tax on people, we're going to get less of that thing. Absolutely. But like across the board, I am for taxing more for good reason. And making sure that our climate policy is here too, our worker conditions are met, and all these things are good enough reasons to at least bring some of this manufacturing back. Maybe not all of it. Maybe not fucking all 12% of what we export overseas or whatever. Maybe 5% of it. But if we can get more companies, more people working under these better conditions that we approved as our law, that's better in general for the planet, isn't it?
So I think
I think there's evidence that free trade is actually good for the environment. But look, like some taxes are better than others.
Well,
Like,
hold on. Aren't you
obviously,
a
I'm in favor of.
Keynesian?
Hold on.
Aren't you a Keynesian economist?
Me, I would say I'm probably between new Keynesian and post Keynesian. I probably have some post Keynesian.
Would cutting taxes be better for the economy or for the environment?
Hold on, all right. Why don't we explain
It
to the
depends.
audience in
I
case
mean-
there's anybody? I know not everybody in my audience for sure is going to know what those words mean. Why don't you tell them what Keynesian is as an economic style? Somebody.
Let the economists.
Oh yeah, we got two people here with economy people background.
I don't know. Look, I would say like Keynesians generally just going to be more in favor of government intervention during downturns. Going to be in favor of like counter cyclical stimulus. So if we're experiencing a downturn, basically we should to an extent bail people out because that prevents the paradox of thrift, as I think as Keynes
And-
called it. And I mean, I think
hold
another
on,
big part of Keynesianism is
Hold on.
I'll
That
let you
doesn't
finish. Hold
actually
on. Let it,
define
I'm going to
what
let
it
it
is.
finish. Well, hold on. I want somebody. Okay, y'all can define it, but I also want y'all to tell the other two competing schools of thought, right? Too. Yeah, that there is. So that y'all, I think there might be more, but the two main ones, so they understand. And let's keep it brief here.
Austrian is not a main school of thought. Not just
Yeah.
throwing that out there.
I mean, basically, I
sure.
think the big thing,
Well, I'm an
the relevant
Austrian.
thing is kind of like the business cycle. So, like, Keynesians believe in the Keynesian business cycle, and it seems like monetarist and
I trust a communist just as much as my checkbook.
true.
Sure.
You
Okay,
know,
what's an
monetarist
Austrian?
and
Austrian school of thought, real quick. Somebody tell them.
Austrian
that.
It
believe in the
emphasizes
Austrian
individual
cycle
action,
theory.
free markets, and the role of
Thank you.
Actual
entrepreneurship
free
in driving
market.
economic progress, often critical of government.
Fantastic. Wick got the
I read it
memo.
off of Google.
Thank you. I know. I was
Nice.
hoping somebody would do that.
Pisco was
before
going
we
to
Way
got-
yell at you, boy.
go.
Oh
Pisco
yeah.
will
Yell
yell
at
at you.
me. But as I said, I'm not an economist and I'm not familiar with all the schools of economy, but we can
Sure.
talk about government intervention versus non-intervention. And we can talk about the specific interventions that tariffs are, right? You said you were a non-interventionalist, so obviously you're against tariffs, correct?
I am
Rick?
against tariffs, but at this point, we kind of have to use them because they're being used against us.
So you're not a non-interventionalist.
Well, actually, I'm as Tyler found out to his much to his chagrin, I'm very much a non-interventionist. However, the fact is that we have no choice at this moment except to deal with things as they are until we can totally withdraw. So I'm
choice.
personally
Why don't we have a
support-
choice
Well,
on that?
actually,
I
Rick, that's
support
interesting,
Yeah,
Rick.
the
I'm
tariffs.
just curious. Do you think
I
it's so
would,
bad that we...
I love the decoupling
Oh
from
no!
China.
My internet!
Well, hold on. Let it finish. 'Cause I think he's bringing
He's
up a
still
good
here.
point. Hold on. I think Wick's bringing up a
Wick
good.
froze. Wick froze.
Oh, he's frozen now.
Oh, he'll be back.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is an interesting point that I'll ask that Wick brings up that is kind of interrupted on you. You're saying you have to deal with it as it lies, right? Like as it is. To play the ball as it lies. If you're not, if
Yes, it was a golf
happy, go more.
analogy. I got it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So if y'all didn't know that, we got some people in the audience that are of all age groups. If you do that, right, like you could say that. I feel like people don't want to admit that that's an actual.
Like
You're back,
action.
Wick. Like an actual strategy, like that. You have to play, even though you may agree with one school of thought. You're like, well, since we can't do my ideal form, well, let's do a play it as a live situation and like deal with it. That's kind of what you're advocating, right, Red?
Yeah.
Is-
I'm obviously. I don't believe in tariffs. I don't believe I believe in free trade. I believe in the least possible amount of government intervention. However, at this moment, that's where we're at. And so therefore, we have to play the ball as it lies. I would rather not have any tariffs. I would rather us not send anything or buy anything from China at all until they reduce their tariffs. Unfortunately, our economies are too tied up. So reciprocal tariffs do make sense in that case. You tax
So
me,
to
I'm
an
going to have to
extent,
tax you too. We're going to even it out.
Playing the
For-
ball where it is or whatever. I have my own ideas of what like a perfect tax policy looks like, and that is not the income tax system that we have now. But like, I'm still not in favor of tariffs, even though I do support government intervention sometimes, because like we just observed that tariffs are like a super bad, regressive, distortionary tax that just don't really raise that much revenue. Like a 5% VAT would raise the same amount of revenue as these tariffs, and it's not nearly as distortionary. It doesn't affect business investment as much. And
Same with the estate tax. I agree with everything you're saying about the estate tax as well.
I'm
Let's get
sorry,
rid of that.
estate tax?
If we want
Yeah,
to bring back...
estate.
Estate
Yeah.
tax, the death tax.
Yeah,
The death
estate
tax?
tax, I mean, I think there's
I'm just
reasons
throwing
to
a
believe
hypothetical at
I think there's reasons to believe inherited wealth is kind of bad. I don't think the estate tax is a particularly efficient tax because it basically is just one-time wealth tax at time of death or whatever. But there are
Make
reasons
very
inherited wealth is
little off
probably
of it.
bad.
It's
so.
not-
I have mixed feelings on the estate
Tax
tax,
for
but
dying, guys. Tax for dying.
I'm not here to talk about the estate tax because that's not what's happening to our economy right now. We're not like debating whether or not we should repeal the state tax, right? We're talking about the tariffs. Let's be real here. Like when we talk about government intervention, these tariffs, the Liberation Day tariffs, and correct me if anyone disagrees, but outside of in the last 100 years, these are the largest tariffs we have seen in America go out
From
in
America.
the last
From America,
years.
not in
Yeah,
America.
Five
No,
different,
that's
five
absolutely
different
wrong.
tariff policies. Absolutely.
Yes. So again, if you're a
You're an
non-intervention,
no. Stop.
you have
I
Stop.
think he's right.
at
No,
least
no.
somewhat. You can't even. You
Stop.
don't even
That
know
is
what I'm about to
incorrect.
say.
And that is incorrect. And this is why. Because Japan taxed American vehicles 80% or higher, up to 120%. And we gave them brakes to bring their cars in. So, yes, we were tariffed. There were massive tariffs against the United States.
Almost
Massive
every
tariffs
single,
against
not
us.
every, but almost every single
but they
country
give us
in
anime.
the world.
Yeah, they did give us
Right?
anime. We paid for it though.
Yeah.
We didn't.
I mean,
It wasn't free. Wasn't free.
It's free. It's free.
But again, I can't
I'm not
control
cool enough to get it
Japan's
free, guys. I'm
policies
sorry.
here, but we can't talk about whether we support Trump's policies and the tariffs. And again, as someone
No,
who's
we're
a
talking about
non-interventionist,
economists. We're not.
I'll just be real with you.
Quit
I don't
trying
believe you
to-
when you
quit-
say
quit
you're a
trying to
non-interventionist.
Take this into
Because a
this bullshit
non-interventionist
range.
would not be okay with this massive amounts, a nuclear bomb of intervention. We're not just talking about one tariff here, one tariff there. We're not just talking about a little bit of injection in the economy. We're talking about the biggest tariff in the last 100 years.
Fuck yes. Let's get it.
Look, Japan tariffs us at an
Yeah,
Burn
average
it
one.
down. Burn the
4%.
system
Like,
down.
that's
Make the
like, that's
Chinese so
nothing.
mad that they never send us another plastic pile of dog shit. I would love that. Fuck yes.
Hold on.
And I
Wait,
would
you
rock
want
it.
to
want a
so
plastic
wait,
pile
would you
of
be in
dog
favor?
shit?
You would
That's
wait,
amazing.
would you be in favor of what Kevin Lear? So I don't think you're saying this like a all across the board blanket tariff. You sound like you want more targeted tariffs, Grid. Like say they're bucking us with 120% on a car, then we would hit them with something bad. Would you be in favor of what Kevin Leary has proposed with 400% tariffs to China, and reduce some other places? Would you like something like that, Grid?
I mean, I see the point. I mean, I've actually heard a half of his deal, so I'm not super familiar with it, but I'm sure that I would agree with most of what he says.
Okay. Can I just ask this?
Yeah.
Who thinks we're winning the trade war with China right now? Raise your hand.
Winning?
Yes.
Right here. Absolutely. 100% across the board.
Holy shit. You guys are crazy.
No, I think the crazy one's sitting across
You're
from me.
not
They took
winning
a
this
much
trade
bigger
war.
dip than we did. Yes.
Yeah, they're like
they
even
took
the
a
Chinese,
20%.
even the Chinese people are coming out said they like today that they're like borderline at zero.
They're having protests in the streets right now against Xi Jinping.
I don't
Oh,
think you
Wick,
understand.
You didn't know
China
that?
can hold on. I don't
Oh,
think you
man.
understand. Do you think
Gotta get your-
protests in China are going to do shit?
No, but the fact that they
The
can
fact
get-
that
they
do
can
you
China
not
is
understand
a
what a
different
big deal
type
that
of-
is?
China
people
is a
get
different
killed
type
for that,
of
Wick.
government.
Yeah,
It's
but not like
subject to
you.
different incentives,
hold on,
and it's
let me get-
subject to, if you
Okay,
guys
I
let me
wanna jump
finish,
in here.
they're subject to different pressures,
I'm gonna-
and they are
okay.
able to withstand pain far greater than our system of government is.
No, they're
We will
not.
break before
Hold on,
they
That
do.
is insane.
No.
So hold on. Before we go, let me ask
They
you.
have a
Let me ask you
higher,
a question.
like, savings.
Do you think that if you, so we all agree, if everybody you protest in China, that's not going to change shit in Chinese government. They're just going to disappear you, or at best for a lot of those cases, right? So wouldn't that
That's
be
why it's a big
indicative that if they're out there protesting en masse, things are that bad that they're willing to risk being disappeared and like sent somewhere? Like, wouldn't that be indicative of that to an extent?
They have a lot of different types of protests and styles of protests. If you're protesting like Hong Kong, yes, that's a disappear you protest. But when we're talking about like a lot of times in
Protesting
China,
against
they
the government
have
period gets you disappeared. They have
allowed protest. It's just different. It's just different. They're not protesting against
Dude,
the government of China.
Have you
at
been to
least
China?
I understand. No, but I
But
studied Mandarin
I'm married to a
Chinese
Chinese
when I
woman. You
was
want me to go
in
ask
the
her?
Defense Language Institute, where I was a cryptolinguist for the military, where my target language was Mandarin Chinese, and so I know a little bit about how their government works. Not an expert by any means, but I think I know more than the layman does. Let's say that.
I don't
Did you
think you
order
do.
Chinese food?
I think you're shrouded by a sense of idiocy.
Of course they could. Go
Can
ahead.
you order Chinese
lot of-
food
a lot of-
here in that language? Do you do that?
Not well. This was 10 years ago. I've lost a lot of my language capabilities.
Oh, that's not fun.
Mm.
Sucks.
It's a pretty big.
Listen, it seems like it's a lot harder for the U.S. to remove China from its supply chains than it is for China to move the U.S. from its
And
supply
China's
chain.
already making deals with the EU. They're already getting closer to Japan. They're already
You're
getting closer to South
wrong.
Korea.
They're
What we're
literally
doing,
the
America
Chinese
is
government's about to
isolating
have to
a lot
invoke
of things China
martial
imports
law.
are like
Isolating ourselves.
soybeans, which they can
You
pretty
are
easily buy
so
from
wrong.
Brazil.
This is propaganda, dude. You do not understand.
I'm
Literally,
just
the
telling you
government's
facts.
about to
I'm telling you
invoke
facts.
martial law and start killing their citizens, and you don't seem to understand the mass
Wait,
effect
which
that is
Chinese
going
citizen
on.
has been killed due to these tariffs?
I'm sorry.
They're having protests in the streets.
To the
Those people
protests on these
They will
tariffs.
kill the
How
protesters
many
on the
Chinese
street.
citizens
They're
have
going to
been
kill the
killed?
factory
None yet, we
worker
don't
who literally stands up and says, "I want to work, man," and you got to work with the U.S. You got to, and they're going to kill that guy. It's not like here, Wick. They don't have leftists there like you. They don't.
Okay, so
They
real
disappear
quick,
people.
hold on, hold on.
No, they
Let
have
me jump in
they
here.
have
It seems like China's
PRC
been the one.
Let me
dick suckers
jump
like
in.
you.
Let me jump in real quick and just kind of
Go
give
ahead.
you a
Go
comparison
ahead,
of, the,
yeah.
of the economy. So I'm pretty sure about 20% of the money made worldwide in every country added together comes from the U.S. We're significant, like 4% of the world's population, 20% of the income. If you look at global trade, one of every $3 spent on the world stage is the United States dollar being spent. Even if you add the EU and China together, they still don't beat us. So the fact that we're that much of a demand to do business with puts us extremely higher in a point of leverage. And what you see with countries like Vietnam, they're being incentivized to not only buy more U.S. goods, same with the EU, buy more U.S. goods, and start tariffing China. I do not think that after Ukraine fucked the EU over by giving them all these energy imports and then invading a country they were in negotiations with to bring into the EU. I do not think they're going to turn around and say, well, let's just start buying shit from China now, who's doing the same shit with Taiwan and funding Russia to go into the EU. So I think we're seeing on a larger scale, we're going to see Trump having Canada, Mexico, and the EU all put up tariffs against the Chinese, and we're going to see them moving away from their economy in the next decade.
I mean, first
Okay,
of
I
all, we
think
brought
that-
this up earlier. The U.S. is literally at risk of losing our world reserve currency status because people don't want our dollars anymore. They are so uncertain about what the fuck is happening.
People
You're
are
shaking your head,
divesting
but, like,
And
from
yet,
America at rates
non-fun,
we've
they're
not seen.
all coming to the table to make the deal with us. You can talk all of
Okay,
this
can you
nonsense,
give us a list
but
of
the
countries that have come to
reality
the table?
still
investors are
remains.
not- the
Live
people
in
selling
reality.
bonds are not the ones.
We have about 30 countries named by now, yes. I can give you a
Okay,
large
can you
list.
send me that and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
deals that have been
Talking about
made?
mostly
No
private
deals have been
investors who are
finalized yet.
selling
They've
No
been
deals
They're
have
not
been made
private
yet.
investors,
Yeah.
non-fun. They're
I'm talking about-
governments.
Oh, I'm sorry, they
Governments,
didn't
sir.
fucking
Yeah, I understand.
negotiate with
I'm not talking
75
about
countries
governments. I'm primarily
overnight.
talking about the private investors who are concerned about the U.S. economy and therefore are choosing to divest from it, and that's good. That's hurting our currency. People are currently shifting away from using our currency. And
It's
again, the U.S. is a bigger economic power than China, and we probably engage in more trade overall. I don't disagree with that. But look, like I said, a lot of goods that we rely on from China are just super hard to remove from our supply chain because we rely on them
I
from
don't believe that's
electronics
true
that
at
really
all.
can only be made
The,
there, and
the
China
only,
can
the only thing
buy
that
the
China
soybean
has
trade
right now on
from-
us is
from
the rare
Brazil.
earth metals.
Look,
And
if China was doing so poorly, I don't think they would be doing things like they are, like the export tax on rare earth minerals. They are literally basically forcing us to implement a tariff on them by putting an export tax on certain goods going to the U.S. if they know we won't do super well without. And look, Trump has said that he wants China to call him, right? And China's the one not calling him. So I don't think they're too concerned over losing any potential trade war. And I do think
I think
a
you're
lot
really
of our
wrong on
allies
that one, pal.
are not
China
going to
reached out to the
anymore
administration
to
4
sign
days
any
ago.
deal because we just blew up the last deal we had. I'm pretty we had a trade surplus with Australia, and we had an agreement with Australia. We had an agreement with a lot of countries through the GATT agreements, where we had low tariffs because of the GATT agreements, and Trump blew all those up. I don't know why they
If
would
only
think
there
we
was
have any
like a
credibility.
partnership of non-Chinese Pacific nations that we could join, maybe a trans-Pacific partnership or something that we could join. What happened? Why can't we put something like that together?
Why
I
would
There's
we
that
want to
TPP.
put something like
Well,
that together?
in 2016, there were 2 candidates that were against it. One of them negotiated, and then she turned around and denounced it. So who was going to usher that in if both candidates were
Who
against it?
withdrew us from the trans-Pacific partnership?
Oh, either
Who was
president that won in
Who
2016.
was it?
Because both of them were
Can
running
you
it.
name them? Who was it that
They were
actually
both
took us
bad,
out?
but it's still Trump being bad.
I don't think
So,
it's bad. I think
It was Trump, gang. Trump removed
Yeah.
us from the Trans-Pacific
everyone-
Partnership.
anyone
Just
We know.
FYI.
I get where you're going, but I don't have a problem with that. Again, not a globalist.
You keep
It's
using the
fine, I
word
don't know.
globalist,
You
and I'm not sure what you mean by the word globalist.
Jew.
But this might be a different conversation depending on what you mean by globalist.
No,
Like, I don't know,
Tyler.
you said
No,
earlier
no.
you want like as much free trade as possible, right? You just want it to be fair or whatever. Like that to
Sorry.
me implies globalist or whatever.
Yeah, free
Trying to
trade is
help myself.
globalist, baby.
I'm sorry. Are you asking me a question? Or are you just being?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm
what's the
asking, what do you
difference
mean by
between globalist?
globalist?
It's hard to
What do you
tell when
call
you're
it a globalist?
just rumbling. Anyway, yeah. So
Can you guys not
globalist.
hear me? Is this not on? Hello?
To me, globalist means that you want to participate in this economy as we're the big kid on the block. We're the police of the world. We're the whatever you want to call it, and we don't need to be that guy. I would actually prefer if we no longer provided security on the high seas for all nations and let them provide their own. I would prefer that we do not provide security for any other country except the United States, including South Korea, including Germany, and including, well, basically, Tyler and I had this whole discussion at one point. So yeah, I'm not a globalist in that metric. Also, I believe that sure, we can trade with other countries, but that trade needs to be private, not government interference. No government interference.
Well, hold on, Grid. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah, man.
Maybe I'm confused because I mean,
Yeah.
I'm definitely not an isolationist.
I
But
know you're not.
I'm a little
know you're not.
confused about
I'm not an isolationist.
how
I'm not
let's just
interventionist.
let's just say, I don't know, China. There's a country, specifically a Chinese country,
Mhm.
that is building atolls outside in like military bases in the middle the Pacific Ocean, and they're deciding that we're no longer going to let the U.S. trade with the Philippines or Taiwan, and we're going to let any ships in the areas we control. Now, do you want us to go in there and force our way in and be able to trade with those countries? Because the Philippines, it's in Philippines territorial waters.
Mhm.
They should be able to take out China, right, by your own metric. Is that what you're kind of saying, or should we be able to enforce our American interests with?
I think
using
that
our strip?
I go back to I go back to the earliest days of the country. There was a situation, you may have heard of it, the Barbary Pirates.
Yes.
Hmm.
Marine Corps fight song and all. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what we did there?
Okay.
Yeah.
We killed all those
You got it.
motherfuckers. And that's what happens. But did we become the police of the
So
world
you
at that
want
point?
intervention?
Did we become the police of the world at that point? Did we provide security for other nations on the high seas? It can be argued that we made it easier for the East India Trading Company and the British to trade, but really we
the answer is
protected our
no,
own
because
interests.
historically, guess who was doing that then? Because we were at war, or we were not friendly with the UK. Or
We
Britain,
weren't actually friendly with the UK. You're right.
Yeah, and obviously, and so they're the ones who were providing the freedom of trade. And
Okay, let me ask you.
look, why would,
we
go
have
ahead,
about $2 trillion a year that runs through the Taiwan Strait. Okay, $2 trillion of trade. A lot of that goes to us. If China says, "Nah, we're gonna shut that shit down," should we go in and open it up?
Is it their territorial waters?
Planes,
Or if the
boats?
Houthis are attacking ships in the
I
Middle
mean,
East.
you can answer this question simply, Wick. I mean, I don't think you're that dense. Maybe I'm wrong.
I'm asking you what you think we should do.
Is it their territorial waters?
It's the Taiwan Strait.
Okay, then no. And if we want, and if we need to, we can send warships along with our cruise ships or passenger ships or trade ships or whatever and blow them out of the water.
So yes,
You want to intervene in that situation.
Well, that's not intervention. That's protection. Is it?
You're a last case scenario interventionist.
Well, hold on. If I'm walking down the street and someone tries to rob me,
I
and the
will
security
intervene and
guard
stop
I've
them.
hired, and the security guard I've hired beats their ass.
Intervenes and stops
That's not.
them?
That's me.
Your government issued security guard, all right?
No, I have no government.
He's
issued
rich enough; he'll
security
just
guard.
pay for it. You know.
I'll
All
give
right.
money to Israel to.
All right.
defend
Anyway, moving on. Okay. So yeah, I mean, not a fan of.
Yeah.
So you're not a fan of us going in there and protecting our trade between countries once it reaches their territorial waters. So you would just say that if the Philippines can't defend it, then
Well, I would
guess we don't
say that
trade
if
with
the
Philippines
if
no more?
Philippine boats can't get out of Philippine waters, then that's our problem, and they can either deal with it.
What about our boats in and out of the?
Well, our
Philippine
boats are our
waters?
boats. You don't touch our boats.
Okay.
You don't touch our boats.
The boats
What
are-
if an
I was
American
waiting for
company
him to
wants
say
the
it so that I could do
Philippines-
that.
Who's gonna
Hold
check
on,
the
what if an
boats
American
for
company-
that?
What if an American company says, "Hey, we have a deal with the Philippines, okay, where they're going to ship us using their boats. We've
Mhm.
agreed to use their supply chain. They're using Philippine boats to send us our goods,
Mhm.
right? It's a huge company, and a lot of companies get whatever resource from the Philippines. And then
Uh-huh.
China says, we're going to stop those
Bananas.
Philippine boats from going
Uh-huh.
outside,
Is
and
that
we're going to
private
shut
industry?
them down. Yes, it's a private
Okay,
industry.
Then why did they contract for that?
Because for whatever reason, it was cheaper to get the parts or the supplies or whatever they're buying from the Philippines, whatever they want. Maybe it's mail order brides. I don't know, right? Whatever they're buying for the Philippines, okay?
Racist.
The company wants it. They're ordering it, right? And the Philippines are shipping them in, okay?
Let me
China
just stop
comes
you.
in
Let
and
me just
stops
stop you.
that from happening.
No, Wick.
Should the
No,
American
Wick.
government
I don't.
free their
I
ships?
don't believe that our government owes you security in a foreign country, Wick. My
I
government
think
does not-
they
my
do.
government
I
doesn't-
think that if an American
does
citizen is
not
abducted and
provide
accosted by a foreign
you
government,
or
that we
your
should come in
goods
with guns,
security in a
bombs,
foreign
planes,
country,
and
Wick.
rescue our
Are you
American
fucking
citizens.
stupid?
Okay,
Really?
let me
I
take a
know
crack at
that.
that.
Oh yeah, so that's good. We should take out Hamas and get our American guy back.
No,
I
yeah.
agree. I agree. I know.
Yes.
I know Wick was like that. All right. I'm going to switch topics now to a different economic topic. Yeah, because this is going down a foreign policy rabbit hole, which is related to this to some degree. But speaking of foreign policy, Trump has implemented the new gold card, $5 million. He's claiming they made $5 billion off of it so far. Are we fans of this system of economic influx? The logic
How much
being
is it?
these are rich people that are going to invest in the U.S. economy now that they're here. Are we
Are we
fans
talking
of this
about
politics?
the visas
How much
that he's
is that?
selling?
Yeah, the $5 million.
$5 million.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So he
Gold
raised the
card.
price.
I don't have a big.
He
Yeah.
raised
Yeah.
the price.
I don't
know.
believe he
Yeah, that's a
actually raised
passport.
that much. I'm pretty sure.
I don't think we
that
should
part is
have
not
people
true,
in this
but-
country.
You don't think we should have people in the country?
At all.
No people. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
I'm
Like, it's
looking
probably a
at
good
you.
idea. It's probably a good idea
He's
generally.
probably not
to have,
wrong.
you
I mean,
know,
I don't
visas.
actually have an argument against that.
Yeah, let's go down the nihilist route. All right.
Was based
Okay, sorry, that was just a dumb comment.
But it was
You were actually
Okay.
going on
Go ahead.
something.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Nafat. Sorry. Yeah, he's got
Yeah,
us moving.
It's probably a good idea to, to sell some amount of visas every year to investors who will, come in and invest and bring jobs and make their country better and whatever. But I mean, I don't know. My understanding is we already had a program to do that,
We
and I
did.
think
We do.
I'm almost certain Trump is lying about the 5 billion number. Because I believe I think it's like if you invest $500,000 or create like 1,000 jobs or something, you can apply for like a visa in the U.S. I'm pretty sure. I think that's what it was.
That is correct.
So right now, if you want to get a passport, I don't know how much you guys internationally travel, but if you want to get a passport, you can actually pay extra to get it. Get the process accelerated. This is basically that to another.
You can get it 24 hours now.
Yeah.
You can
No,
this is that
so
for another
it's
degree.
one of the
Big fan.
so if you want to immigrate here from another country, especially like China or somewhere like somewhere we're not like super friendly with, there's a couple of different ways to do that, and one of them, as Namfon has said, is through investment. And I believe that was set at 500 grand, and you have to do the background checks and all that. I mean, it's not like you just you write a check and you walk in. I mean, you still have to be vetted, but that is one of the. But people who couldn't get citizenship from a country like China or I don't know, wherever. But China's a country I know that does it the most. And Canada did the same thing, except Canada It was just $500,000 invested. I think the U.S. and I'd have to read the code again, but I think the U.S. it had to be invested in a business and you had to create jobs. And in Canada, for example, it just had to be 500 grand. And so there were people buying houses. They would just go in and say, "We'll give you $500,000 for this house."
Well, I guess the reason I'm bringing this up with the economy is right.
Mhm.
There seems to be some dissent within at least MAGA between those in like Elon Musk's camp who are like, let's continue brain draining other countries and bringing people in here, and people on the further right who are like, we don't want anybody here. These are American jobs. I mean, I would say this falls in the brain drain from other countries category. If you're taking people that are rich enough to invest and bring them in here, I mean, does this sound like a sound economic strategy, or is it Trump? Like, is Trump breaking from what his base is? Do we like it? What do you
sounds like a gimmick, honestly, and I have no strong thoughts. If he wants to do this gimmick, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think Trump's actual proposal here is a gimmick, which is right. But I do think the general idea, which again we kind of already do, of like selling visas if you invest here, is a good strategy. And I do think that we should let in more high skilled people. And I mean more low skill people as well, but I basically think high skill people should have like an uncapped amount of entry that we let in.
So y'all have been arguing from the globalist standpoint for a lot of this, right? Like going forward, I guess we're going to change it a little bit more because it doesn't seem like this is just kind of circling the drain. I think
when I say globalist, can I define what I mean just real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
Quick.
Yeah,
right. When
absolutely.
I say globalist, I don't mean world police. Right? I mean people who protect our interests overseas, and we do have interests overseas. American companies want to invest in foreign businesses for a variety of reasons and get foreign resources for a variety of reasons. And if an American investment firm wants to do that and we have interests there, I think that the American military should protect our interests.
That's insane.
And I think that it should protect foreign.
That's
I think it
literally
should protect
insane.
our interests in foreign places as well. Right. So
I mean,
when we have trade ships that are
cool.
sailing the 7 seas, I think it's
so when the Chinese soldiers arrive to protect Chinese interest in America, you're going to be cool with that?
When Chinese interests and American interests come into conflict, which interests do you want to win out?
Well, I would prefer there not to be any Chinese things here in the United States. See, that's my thing, right? Like, I don't believe in that. Well, you believe in that. You think that's cool. You think, and I don't believe that. I don't believe that Americans in
I think
foreign country need to be defended by American troops invading that country. You dumb fuck.
So actually, hold on. Thorne actually kind of touched on something just now with that comment, and that I really want to go to. Right? He says, "What if they make the best products?" So there's a lot of people that talk. Right? If you see in the U.S., I know we are not going to debate IP. We're not doing that, whether or not it's good or bad. But China has a different set of rules regarding IP than what we do. Right? Once you reach to like $5 million, like per year rate capital, like gains or whatever, like in your product sales, China will just blatantly rip that off and just start making cheaper copies. And there's nothing the U.S. can do. What do we suggest when like we have powers that seem to be playing by a different set of rules? Because it doesn't seem like y'all are a fan of tariffs on the left, and even some of us here on the right. What do we do in situations like this, or like in the EU, where like it took Trump his first term, he increased it by 10,000 tons on beef, but like they have all these extra restrictions. Like they just slapped us with poultry restrictions. Well, what do we do with like groups that seem like they're willing to protect their people, but they won't like help us, right? Like where it's like they're looking out for them. Like what do we do in these situations if not tariffs?
Well, there's a wealth of options, and obviously it's context dependent. Look, there are certain situations where tariffs are the right answer, right? There are certain situations where tariffs are the thing that we should do. However, the way that this administration is utilizing tariffs makes it clear that they don't know what they're doing. They're incompetent at this. They are incompetent at the economic global trade, and what they're trying to do simply is not working. The reason he backed off the tariffs initially is because he saw what was happening to the dollar and to the 10-year treasury bond yields and how they were spiking and how that was absolutely not in the interest. And Trump said this was the reason that he backed off in his speech the very next day.
Not exactly
a lot of people tried to post hoc rationalize this.
That's
exactly what he said.
Not exactly what he said.
It is watching the bond market. He said he was watching the bond market.
He said people were getting yippy because of the bond market, and he canceled it because of them. But he also said 75 nations came to him, and it takes time to make those deals as well in the same speech. So they were more than one
Yeah,
reason.
they did ask for more time. They wanted more time to make deals.
I'm just repeating why the reason that Trump gave. But
you only repeated
regardless,
half of
to
it,
answer your
Rick.
question-
Come on,
just
don't be
real
a
quick, like
dick.
to answer
Be a
your
dick,
question,
man. Come
right?
on.
To answer Gibbs' question of what should we do, we have a whole host of options because I do want to bring manufacturing jobs back to the U.S. I think that's a good idea, right? Subsidies are a very good option, right? And there are others, and I'm sure Namfon could elaborate on them. But this idea that we only have one tool in our box is just not true. But yeah, that's
Nobody
what I have to
said
say.
that.
What are they? I'm waiting to hear.
Subsidies
So,
are one,
I think the
right?
Subsidies.
first thing to mention is
Okay.
obviously if you believe tariffs are generally like economically beneficial or at least not like super economically harmful. Well, in any case where you see an unfair trading practice, you're going to say, well, obviously we should do a tariff here because it hurts some and also doesn't
It's
hurt
just
us.
a
especially
tool
with
in the
that. But
toolbox,
if you
non-fun.
haven't
You know
heard,
that. Come on.
so if you have sort of a view on tariffs where they are economically harmful, you're going to be a lot more hesitant as to when an unfair trading practice justifies the use of tariffs. And again, like we do have other tools like the WTO, does have mechanisms by which you can try to get other countries to change their trading policies. Now, to an extent, China doesn't fully listen to them, but also, I mean, it's not like the
Well,
U.S.
so what do you?
doesn't
Well, hold
engage
on.
in
What do you
unfair
do,
trading
non-fon?
practices.
What do you
Like
do in
we
that
subsidize,
situation? Like, so
we
China's a
subsidize
massive
our.
power, right? Like,
What's the
what do you
next step?
do? Well, hold on. Yeah. So, like, hold on. Like, okay, let's just use that scenario, right? You said that
Well,
you just admitted they don't follow through, right? With everything, right? And so, like, explain to me. Like, I get your argument for like where these countries that will play ball, we should do the X, Y, Z, right? But so, explain to me what our prescription is to do and like fight an adversarial power that has so much economic ability all over the world. Like, if what is our options then if they're not going to play by the
what would you
world
say?
rules?
What do you think Mexico should do? Because we have free trade with Mexico and we subsidize our farmers, and our farmers are able to outcompete all the Mexican farmers. And we're obviously a global economic
Well,
hegemon
I'll
too.
tell you what I would say is tough titties because always my theory is what's best for Papa. So like yeah, that's what I'm asking. How do we what's best for Papa China whenever they're cheating
You tell
at the
Mexico,
world rules?
sorry,
What do
we're
you
trying to compete with
what,
Mexico.
like
We're trying to compete
now,
with China.
now, if I was a Mexican farmer non-fawn, I'd be like, well, Mexico, y'all need to do something about this. And so I guess I'm asking you, what would you tell the Mexican farmers is your plan?
So actually,
I mean, again, so it would depend on basically how harmful I believe the unfair trading practice is, because there are, the U.S. consumer and U.S. companies do benefit from the cheaper prices because China subsidizes their products, right? Obviously, U.S. producers are hurt, but U.S. consumers probably win out more than producers lose. I like unfair trading practices. If we agree there is a problem, I'm going to sound like a libertarian. Tyler, you're going to love
Sure.
this. Government intervention is not always, the correct solution to the problem, and it
Never
can end
the
up
solution.
making
trickle
things worse.
down non-fun, baby.
Well, if you believe it's not, this is absolutely not trickle down. But look, I mean, I just
never the
don't.
solution, but then you're like tariffs are good actually.
Hold on, I want
I
to hear
said
non-fawn
tariffs are
finish
the
his thought.
option at this moment because
Somebody-
we've gotten
somebody get-
ourselves into a
It's not-
Somebody
fucking
get
mess.
ready to click. Somebody get ready to click Fabian Fawn. I'm ready for it.
I'm
Go ahead,
ready.
finish out.
Well, I mean, no, I said like, the libertarians will say this all the time. Like, even if there is a problem, it doesn't always mean like government intervention is the best solution to that problem. It can end up making things worse. And I like, there are probably plenty of cases where tariffing a country because we believe they're engaging in unfair trading practices would actually make things worse. And like Wick is right, if we have a problem with China subsidizing their solar panels, well, why don't we just subsidize our solar panels, right? And like Biden did this, and we have evidence that solar panel subsidies like generally increase the production of solar panels. And it seems like we also have evidence that tariffs a lot of times make the companies that they're trying to protect very inefficient and like reliant on this protection from the government. We have evidence that tariffs reduce labor productivity sometimes, at least within the industry that they are placed in. And subsidies don't tend to have the same effects, it seems like.
And also tariffs lead to lack of innovation in the home market too. That's like a really big thing.
Yeah.
Like you saw that especially with like the EVs. So sorry that's just like my jump in bit.
Real quick, non-fun kind of just
Don't be shy,
debunked Wick's
sick
point
and
right
fun.
there.
Yeah,
In a sense.
get
What
rid of that
non-fun,
American.
non-fun, you just debunked Wick's point of subsidies, because as soon as we put subsidies on China to match their unfair practices, we are now using.
Do you know what subsidies are?
Yes, we're now
We
using.
already
unfair-
use them.
Why
Hold
would we
on,
put
let me get
subsidies
my
on
whole
China?
sentence out. You just said the best way. Gibbs asked you, how would you, if China's ignoring our trade policies and ignoring what we're telling them, how would you work on decoupling from China? The only example you said was subsidies.
You know what subsidies are?
Yes,
You
I'm
don't
aware
put
what
them on
subsidies are.
China.
I'm
What you do
understand.
is you
I get this.
subsidize. That's what you just said.
I
What
said
you
if
do-
we
Why did-
put subsidies on U.S. U.S.
That's not what you
firms to compete with China because of China is what I said. Because of China, if we put subsidies on U.S. firms, we are now undercutting all of our trade practices with every other country around us. Because now, as Nanfan said, we're subsidizing our farmers, so Mexican farmers can't compete with us on the world stage. So instead of actually doing something about it, we're allowing China to continue their unfair practices, making our practices more unfair as well to meet them, and then undercutting trade with everybody else. This leading to the current problem we actually already have. So do you have another solution, maybe?
Well, what do you? Well, hold
Well,
on.
hold
what
on.
would
Before
tariff
we
in that case?
before we
Like,
go any
tariff-
Before we get
further,
into that,
before we go any further, hold on, stop. Before we go any further, a subsidy, as defined by Oxford Language Dictionary, is a sum of money granted by the government or a public body to assist an industry or business so that the price for commodity or service remain low or competitive. All right, go ahead. Bye.
Yeah, so generally also
So-
what you see with subsidies, the cheapest way to get a subsidy out in the US is you find the biggest, most profitable country with the lowest company with the lowest profit margin. So we're giving these subsidies to massive companies like Coca-Cola who are using it to make their products cheaper that are unhealthy. And then what you do is piss off leftists because they're wondering why our government's giving billions of dollars in subsidies to these massive billion-dollar companies. So
Not
really,
a
I
leftist.
mean,
I mean,
I don't
there
care.
are
I don't
plenty.
say you
There are
are,
plenty
but-
of subsidies. There are plenty of subsidies
I
we get the
understand.
farmers that I don't like, especially like on corn. I don't think those are justifiable
Oh,
subsidies
yeah.
for farmers
I
most of
was-
the time. But
I
what
was
would a
just
tariff do in the case
subsidized
of,
by my
unfair
chat
trade
for
practices?
100,000
China
dong,
is not going to
Vietnamese
stop
dong, a
subsidizing
lot
their
of
solar
dong.
panels.
I just
Oh,
want to
darn.
know.
China is not going to stop subsidizing their solar panels.
You're
If we
right.
tariff their solar panels, they
They're
might even
not.
tariff them more subsidize them more to negate the effect of the tariff.
You're
So
right.
like, you're not stopping China from engaging on unfair trading practices.
You're right. They're
but
going to drive
your
their
goal-
people dry
if your
in order to
goal-
subsidize, over-subsidize.
If your goal is to increase local, in other words, American manufacturing, I think subsidizing those things is a better solution than tariffing from other countries.
So
And
why do you
yes,
hate
there
the US
are
taxpayers?
negative, if I may, there are negative repercussions like ripple effects for some subsidies. But if our goal, and I think it should be, this is where I would agree perhaps with the other side, is that we have a manufacturing deficit in America, and we do need to turn that around, especially when it comes to things like boat manufacturing, ship manufacturing, things like that, because we are coming into a much more hostile world. I think that Trump's alienating our allies and withdrawing from the world stage is going to increase the chance of conflict with a global power in the next 10 years. And we do need to really hop on board and get a large investment into American manufacturing, American jobs, American steel production, American ship production, American weapons production, and things like that. And subsidies allow us to do so in a much more clear and a much more specific way, targeted way than tariffs would.
Why not have tax
That's
breaks
why I'm
instead?
asking for subsidies.
Why not do tax
Abs-
breaks instead?
Tax breaks are another thing that we can
They-
do. Yes.
I mean, that
It's
is
another tool.
essentially a type of subsidy, like
Right, I mean,
Citizen
but
Science
no,
Act
no,
offer
no, no,
tax
no,
credits
no,
for
no, no.
companies who
If you give someone a subsidy, you're taking money from taxpayers and giving it to a company. If you simply don't
Yeah,
collect
so,
as much
uh,
tax,
that's-
what you're doing is you're
so what do you think
allowing
a tax
that
credit
company
is? A
to
tax
pay
credit-
more people. Just for example, I paid $250,000 in taxes last year. I could have hired 4 people at that with that money. The government does not spend my money anywhere nearly as well as I do, obviously, because I make money and the government loses money. And so therefore, by everyone's rationalization here today, you should all be giving me your fucking money and I should be making it work for you.
You
Look,
wouldn't
like,
invest
that's
in
very
things that I
right.
feel are wise.
accounting, whether the government reduces the amount of taxes you pay by $1,000 or simply gives you $1,000 but doesn't reduce the amount of taxes you pay, like that's the same thing in effect. Obviously, like I'm pretty sure if you ask ChatGPT this or Grok this, they will consider tax credits a form of subsidy. I'm pretty sure that's a reasonable thing.
Well,
It
let
is.
me ask.
Like,
Hold on. Let
you
me
know-
ask this. Let me ask this, Grid. You said you don't like taxes, right? I mean, I also fucking hate taxes. Many people would argue that a tariff is equivalent to a tax. Do you agree with that, or
Well,
do you
there's
don't?
a-
I
by
do,
definition,
and
a tax.
it annoys the fuck out of me that we get taxed by every damn country on our goods, and we don't tax theirs.
Okay,
Grid,
fair enough.
you acknowledge, Grid, please. How much do you think Japan's average tariff rate on us is, please?
I believe we were somewhere around 8% before all this started. Average.
No, we were at like 1.64%. How much? How much do you think?
Hold on. But you're looking across all of the products. What was the tariff rate
That's actually
on
a good
American
point.
cars
That's
going
why I'm looking
into?
at the average tariff.
Hold on. Yeah.
Well, hold on. Yeah,
What was
Nathan,
the,
why
what was
would
the
you
tax
why,
rate
hold on.
on American cars going into Japan?
Why I
American
understand
product,
it could be the case that the
an
tariff-
actual American product. I don't give a shit about lipstick. I care about things that actually.
What do you think we
add
Okay,
value.
so
Hold on,
that's
that's
cheese
arbitrary.
means
Hold on,
nothing
that's
to
a-
you. Nothing at all.
Hold on, that's a good point that Grid's making, and I've seen this argued a lot on a lot of.
I want you to fucking answer the
well, you
question.
can. I'll let you rebut it because I think I think Grid's actually making touches on something. Is that say like cars, right? In Japan, yeah, if they're across the board, it's what'd you say, 1.8%? Yeah, that's low. I agree. But if it's cars, which is something that specifically we're trying to compete in that market, and they have an 80 to 120% tariff, yeah, that's a lot different than if they have a like a negative tariff. I don't know. There's probably not. I don't think there's a way to do a negative tariff. But if there was a negative tariff on fucking rice, because they don't need American rice, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just picking something here. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's gonna offset it.
Okay.
Right? 0
Well, yeah, but this
So
is
let
the-
me tell you why this is retarded.
Sure, go
and
ahead.
Sorry
Tell me
for
why.
using the hard R here, but
It's
I
all
think
right.
it's
I'll allow it.
warranted. If Trump had made a tariff on cars specifically,
He did.
we might have a conversation.
did.
We could have
did.
something to talk
He
about.
did.
But that's not what
He
Trump
fucking did, Wick. Shut
Trump
the fuck up.
put
This
a
just shows you that you don't know what you're
blanket
talking about.
tariff
Stop. I'm going to
on all
talk.
these
I
countries.
don't want
Grid,
you to
there's a
talk anymore
10% tariff
until
on
you
Japan
understand
right
what you're
now, is there
talking about.
not?
Did he
5
freeze?
different policies. That was the
Did he
first one.
freeze or did he just like?
No, he's waiting for you to say what you
Oh,
were
okay,
going to say
yeah.
because you came
No,
in very
Wick,
hot.
you're fucking wrong. He literally said that if you buy an American car, you don't pay taxes on it. You buy a car made in a foreign country, you pay taxes on it.
If I want to buy a manga from Japan, is there a tariff on that right now?
A manga?
I believe so. I believe
Yeah.
there's a
I
10%
believe there are
tariff
taxes
all
on
products
that.
in Japan. There
10%.
might be some
If I
some
wanted to
change.
buy rice from Japan right now, is there a tariff on that? There is. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about. It's the blanket tariffs. So don't try to like get me in a gotcha when you don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
I'm
sir.
not trying to get you, but you literally said if he put it on cars specifically,
On
and he
just
did,
cars.
he made a specific tax on cars higher
Well,
than
yeah.
everything else.
2 weeks prior
But
to
that's
any
not
of the
only
tariffs.
two. That's not.
Yeah,
That's
also,
not a
yeah, it was
reciprocal
2 weeks
tariff.
prior.
Though. The
I'm
auto
leaving
part
that
tariff
out.
is
Thank
under.
you.
It's not reciprocal to other countries. The auto parts tariff is just 25% on all auto parts.
It's
imported to
not.
the
We're not
country.
talking about auto parts. We're
that's not a
talking about
reciprocal-
actual cars.
That's what Trump did. Trump has a tariff on all auto parts. I'm
Yeah,
assuming that's what you're
he-
referring to.
No,
car
I'm
one.
talking about actually buying a car. You buy a U.S. made car. Trump put in place a policy where if you buy a car made in America, that means a Toyota Tundra truck made in Texas. I think they're made in Texas still. Then you don't pay taxes on it because it supports American workers. But if you buy
True, buddy.
whatever I don't even know what they fucking still make in Japan. Honda Civics, maybe, I don't know. If you buy something that it floats,
on Honda.
if you buy something that floats across the ocean, you pay taxes on it. That is a targeted tax. That's exactly
I don't
what
believe,
I said.
Number one, I don't believe that tax credit is in place yet. I think Congress actually has to pass it. Number two, you only get that if you itemize your taxes, and like the bottom 50% of taxpayers just like don't itemize their taxes. I forget if it's literally most of the bottom 50%, but it's only rich people are going to get that tax credit, buddy. But regardless, again, you said that like you're upset about Japan tariffing our cars or whatever. Trump, one, as Wick said, put a 10% tariff on everything in Japan, and two, put auto tariffs on all cars entering the country and car parts entering the country.
He campaigned on that,
like
and he did it.
specifically a reciprocal tariff. This is not a reciprocal tariff to Japan's
But
cars.
you understand.
It's a reciprocal tariff across the board. Like
you understand that he was elected for a universal 10% tariff plus
Yeah,
60%
wow,
on
yep.
China.
I never
And
considered that one,
he
man.
implemented via executive order in January. He did that.
Yep.
And he was elected on doing a 10% across
That's
the board
great.
tariff, period.
That's great. That doesn't make it good. Can you provide an argument that that's
I didn't
good?
say it's good or bad. You
I
just
said
said,
bad.
you just
bringing up
simply
that he was
said,
elected to.
If
you
hold on,
simply,
if the
you were
American
simply trying to
people
make a
elected
that
the next
10% is,
president
like, out of bounds or
to, for
something.
example, steal dumbass caps, okay, would that be a good thing? I don't think you would like that.
So
I think
hold
they
on.
would take your caps away. It would be
That
terrible.
that 10%
Well, we
tariff
just have
across the
American
board.
caps. That's how that works.
That 10% tariff
Is your
across the
cap
board
bought made in America?
is probably the
It is
worst of
actually.
all the tariffs.
Is it?
Probably unconstitutional, but
It's probably the worst of all the tariffs because Trump is telling other nations drop yours to us for zero. We're going to put up this 10% tariff as a comparative advantage adjuster that's in the long term going to eventually, it's essentially using DEI in the form of tariffs. You guys tariffed us for 30 years and made all these imbalances in our economy. This comparative analysis, comparative adjuster is going to, over time, revert those changes to our economy. That's the idea behind that. It's from Peter Navarro specifically.
what the well, Peter Navarro, yeah, my favorite.
You mean
trade
the guy who
economist
quotes
who
Ron
understands a lot.
Barra, right,
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
time?
Okay, I
right?
remember that
The-
one
the
story.
most
But
Comparative
again, I'm
advantage.
using R again.
Bro,
Retarded
bro, I
economist I've
mean,
ever seen.
have you ever heard Biden talk? He said he marched with civil rights people. I don't want to hear about
True.
lying.
I mean,
Like comparative advantage is not something to adjust for. Comparative advantage is something to take advantage of. I don't know why the
I
fuck we would have
understand
a comparative advantage adjustment. That's the most
Well,
retarded thing I've heard, man.
because it's not the snapshot fallacy. When you do something for 30 years in a
Snapshot?
specific policy, yeah, snapshot fallacy. When you do something for 30 years in a specific way, it changes the infrastructure of your country to adapt around that more globalized free trade. What this would do is a small tariff to over time push
Take a drink
people
for
in
the
a
whataboutism, by the way.
Congratulations. You understand,
Well, I'm
Tyler,
just
you
telling you
understand
guys the
gains
backing
from
for it.
specialization.
I'm
Yes,
not
countries
arguing.
gain
I
from
literally
specializing in
started
products.
this. I literally started this by saying it's the weakest tariff and the easiest one to attack and the stupidest one. I'm just telling you why it's
I
there.
understand.
That's all.
But you call it a comparative advantage adjustment,
That's
which
what
is like
Peter
an
Navarro called it. I know you don't get it, but it's feasible.
Oh no, we
economists,
know
does
what
that make sense?
Navarro called it. We know why it's laughable, right? Because Navarro's a laughable person. I
okay.
know more about
hold on.
economics than Navarro.
I want to just
who's
real
who's
quick.
your preferred economist?
I don't have
All
one, but I know
Krugman.
it's not Navarro.
Okay,
Oh,
fair enough.
Okay, so real quick,
No, I would
My
pick
bad.
non-fun over Navarro.
let me jump in with
Honestly.
my point real quick here. So I would say that the largest factor we see for our adversarial nations, and I'm going to keep hammering this point because I think it's the most important and the reason behind this trade war. The biggest thing we see is a sudden burst of money going to these nations. So Russia got a pipeline. Trump put a sanction on it, would not let them have the Nord Stream 2. When Biden came in, one of the negotiations he was having to keep them from going into Ukraine was allowing them to have the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Their economy spiked almost a 10% growth because of that pipeline. And we saw that be one of the major factors in why they had enough money to have the war. And also another major factor in why we couldn't fully sanction and tariff their energy exports, because it would hurt the EU just as much as it hurt Russia. So the fact that they were coupled together undermined the fight back against Russia. We cannot fully put the boot on Russia's neck right now because they're so coupled to Europe in terms of energy exports. With Iran, we see something similar. Trump releases $10 billion in tariffs. Biden releases the same $10 billion and $6 billion more. I think they got $26 billion in like a year and a half. We can see about a fourth of that going to terrorism against Israel. October 7th happens. We have a 7-front war against Israel from 7 different Israeli-funded or Iranian-funded militia groups in 7 different nations, all coordinating, attacking together, ceasefiring together, and everything when they're not supposed to even be talking. Third example, China. 30 years of quasi-capitalist, quasi-communist rule. Their economy goes through the roof. They have tariffs against us the whole time. We see manufacturing fucking tripping over itself to get over there. About 10 years ago, Xi Jinping comes in. Their economy is booming. They're number 2. They start stealing our IPs. They start expanding their nation and looking at Taiwan, Hong Kong, and other places. They start funding all of our geopolitical rivals.
Didn't China
Hold on,
reduce
real
all
quick,
its tariffs when Xi Jinping came in? That's why their economy boomed. I'm pretty sure. I
I
could be
think
wrong.
they've had tariffs on us the whole time.
Yeah, but they
Yeah,
okay. I'm not talking about.
That's obviously not causal for their growth, though. It's probably not
It's
the
a
causal
part of
relationship
it.
there. But
It's a part of the growth
I mean,
of
it probably, if anything,
manufacturing,
it probably reduces their growth. But look, so I mean, he said a few things. One, it's gonna, a lot of this stuff, the national security things, like it's gonna come down again to if you believe tariffs are like not that economically harmful or even economically beneficial, you're gonna be a lot more willing to implement them in cases of national security, if you believe that tariffs are economically harmful and not necessarily even preferable to subsidies, you're going to be a lot more hesitant as to when you want to implement tariffs on these countries. And again, you just have, Tyler, respectfully, you have no good evidence that manufacturing was shipped over to China because they have cheaper workers or whatever.
Everyone agrees to this.
Like,
There was an economist on Bill Maher last week that's arguing your
absolutely
point.
not true. That's absolutely not true. If you were familiar with the literature,
provide you even more evidence than the citation document already
I
did
can
that you
provide
didn't
you
look
with
at.
a lot of studies that say productivity increases were the main driver behind the decline in manufacturing employment in the U.S. And again, it seems like
he's going to ask you for those studies later.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I agree with that completely. Because technology.
Hold on.
Okay.
Let non-fun finish, then you can rebut him. Go ahead.
We already had this exact discussion last week.
Yeah, look, it's just like the evidence all points to productivity increases being probably the main driver behind manufacturing, the decline of manufacturing employment in the U.S. And it also seems like, some of it had to do with unions and the Rust Belt kind of, having a lot of demands that companies didn't want to meet, and therefore they reduced the amount of investment. That's probably part of it as well.
What were those demands again?
But,
all right, go ahead.
I don't know, probably
union pay. Climate regulation, taxation from the United States government. Those were the demands.
That's great.
The demands that you adhere to
we have very good reasons to believe that just structurally, manufacturing employment is always going to decline with per capita income increases. That's why every single country, as they develop, follows the same inverted U-shaped path where manufacturing employment grows at first, it peaks, and then falls down. Even countries like Germany and South Korea, which have strong manufacturing sectors.
Factor. I'm not disputing that factor.
That's not one factor.
Keep going back to this well of the aggregate. We've already had this exact discussion.
Well, look, it just seems like if you keep saying like manufacturing jobs are like being shipped over to China, and I provide evidence. Hold
on. Manufacturing to other countries. Yes.
Okay.
No, that's not at all what we're talking
about. I'm gonna let non-fun. I'm gonna give you like 1 minute or like 30 seconds here to wrap it up real quick, and then I'm gonna let you rebut it, and then we're gonna open it back up. Go ahead. Don't interrupt him.
There's just not really good evidence that trade is responsible for the decline in manufacturing share of employment. If that were to, align the trend line from 1960 to 1980 manufacturing employment, if you extrapolate that out, it predicts the manufacturing share of employment like almost exactly right now, with no knowledge that we would join NAFTA, that China would join the WTO, and we start trading with all these countries. That indicates it just wasn't trade; it was productivity increases.
All right. Rebut him quickly, and then we'll let it.
I understand that.
You got about like 1 minute max.
He's talking about one single factor. I understand that there's enough evidence to prove that tariffing and raising taxes cause the markets to change. A tariff is a tax. It causes the market to change. If you tariff a country, you see we've seen it with the Trump tariffs on China shifting manufacturing to Vietnam. We've seen with the USMCA renegotiations, China is investing in Mexico to shift their manufacturing there because they want to get around the tariff. It's fucking proven in common sense. And we see the real world actions of it in real time. I don't know how it can be denied.
All right. Rest y'all. Thoughts? Y'all look like y'all have some deep ones.
Man, look, someone's been tariffing my thoughts right now. I have no real opinion on the when it comes to offshoring of manufacturing jobs to China. I will say that we've been losing manufacturing jobs in America since the 70s, and that's largely due to automation. When NAFTA was put into place, it had, I would argue, not any appreciable effect on the loss of manufacturing jobs. Those were mostly offshored, again, due to the wage differences, as well as, again, just we're losing automation jobs simply because our economy was changing and moving to a more service-oriented economy, and has been for decades. So, I mean, look, again, I would agree that we do need to revitalize our manufacturing sector. I'm with you. But I think that the way that Trump is going about doing that is retarded.
Non-fine, can I ask you why?
Go ahead, Grid.
I'm going
to let Grid go, and then non-fun respond, and then I'm going to have another question because I want one more thing covered before we move to the last part.
We need to talk about the Federal Reserve as well, but
why is it?
We might as well do that next. Then go ahead, Grid first.
Yeah, why is it that every automotive manufacturer that sells cars here now makes cars here?
I don't know.
What? Sorry,
repeat that. Every car manufacturer that sells cars here now makes cars here.
Yeah. With the exception of Porsche and Ferrari, of course.
There's a number of factors behind it. I don't see how this particular.
You don't understand the factors behind it, but you're the tariffs.
So there's.
Do you think that tariffs did that?
I know tariffs did that.
Okay.
So what again? Like, My point is that
No,
trade
no.
is
Your
not
point was
is
that we're
largely not
losing
responsible
manufacturing
for the decline.
because of automation, but that's not true because we brought manufacturing into
It's
the United
absolutely
States.
true. No, I recognize that obviously if you tariff, car production, there's going to be more car production in the United States. It's just that car production is a lot more automated than it used to be. So it's just not going to provide many jobs. That's my point. Again, like I have actual studies I can cite you. You just kind of have this feeling that, you feel like that manufacturing
feel
went
like
down
anything.
because of trade. But
I mean, the numbers. All
economists
right, look,
are
I
talking about.
really like you. You're a good kid, but here's the thing. Yes, okay, line workers did decrease, but maintenance workers increased because those machines have to be maintained. Do you know how long you? I mean, and
yeah.
just off the top of my head, because I have a background, and I'm picking on this industry because I have a background in the industry, and I kind of understand it a little better than I would making chopsticks or forks. I just don't understand that industry. I understand automotive industry, and I understand what it takes. But we can apply it to any industry that you're claiming to be automated. Those machines can run about 16 hours a day, and they need 8 hours of maintenance. That means that there have to be people there to do the maintenance. We have not yet successfully gotten machines that can do the maintenance for the people. The people also the machine have to have operators standing there. So you're right, we did lose manufacturing jobs, but we picked up jobs that you don't have to hold your hand up, Gibbs. You're the moderator, for Christ's sake.
I'm just don't worry. Listen, I'm perfectly well that I'm the moderator. You keep going. Don't worry. I'll speak up. This is how I think, Papa.
I'm waiting for him to get to his point.
Yeah, don't worry about me.
I thought my point was
this is not my first
perfectly
time.
made.
Okay,
Sorry.
fantastic.
Maybe I'll dumb
So
it
here's
down.
what's gonna happen.
So the
Here's what's gonna happen,
reason that you see the manufacturing jobs in Germany specifically, since you used that example, decline is because of the unions that went there. Do you know that Germany shipped their auto manufacturing to Finland of all places to avoid the unions? And when the unions went there, they started making cars elsewhere.
I mean,
I'm gonna let you rebut. Hold on. I'm gonna let you go ahead, Thorne. I'm gonna let Thorne go. Then I'm gonna let you rebut. Then I'm gonna let you move it over to the Fed topic afterwards, since you brought that up. But go ahead, Thorne, rebut, and then we'll let Nonfon go. Go ahead.
Oh, my point was just that Finland's really pretty. So that's
thank you. I appreciate the deep input there. Go ahead, Nonfon.
You're my favorite person on this panel, Thorne.
Yeah.
Look,
I mean, and ironically, he's got a degree in
economics, the hair and the glasses.
Look, I understand that. Like, I agree with you. Automation usually reduces jobs in some sectors. Like, it will reduce jobs where for all this automation things. I agree automation can be like a net job increase. So, hey, by the way, guess what? Trade is just a type of technology that lets you indirectly produce the things that we import by first producing things to export and then trading for them.
So you're saying
the reason, again, if that was the reason Germany offshored their production, we wouldn't see this trend across every single developed country. There are good structural reasons behind it. I'll give you just one. It's the simplest one.
Are all those countries socialist?
There's something called the Baumol effect. So basically,
I understand that. I asked you a question. Are those countries socialist?
The productivity. Do you understand what the Baumol effect is? Please describe to me what it is.
I asked you a question. You didn't answer it. I said, are those countries socialist?
You know that they're socialist over there.
They're socialists in Germany.
They are.
I don't agree with that. They might be more social democratic than us.
You don't think Germany's a socialist country?
I do not think Germany
What's this have to do with the presidency in China, brother?
Because the unions and taxes, brother.
Okay.
Look, I mean, I'm trying to explain to you.
Well, you talked about the decline. Look, you brought up the decline in manufacturing, and I'm saying that you're trying to say that it's because all of a sudden the more advanced we get, the more automation we get, the less jobs there are in manufacturing. I'm telling you that's not necessarily the case, and that people people offshore those jobs. Not because they don't want to pay people to make cars down the street anymore, but because their government makes it impossible to do so. This is how stupid do you have to be to not understand this?
Okay, great. So can I just describe?
We got to the "you're stupid" argument. Yeah,
but they have been overwhelmingly right. The jobs we have lost because of automation are overwhelmingly more than any jobs we have gained due to like the maintenance.
Prove
of those
that
automation. What do you mean?
Well, that's just not particularly relevant because again, my point is just that this decline in manufacturing employment, not decline in manufacturing output, mind you, because
But
when we get more
you
productive,
said
we output more
jobs.
things.
You said job. You said jobs
I
as
said
a
jobs,
whole,
I know.
right? Like you didn't
Yes.
say, well, the
Jobs
factory's
no.
still there because the maintenance, the guys that actually use the press brake 10 hours a day, those guys are gone because we got an automated press brake, but we got 3 guys now that has to take care of that machine. So you literally missed the entire point, and you made a point of saying something that's not true and not accurate.
Everything I said has been way more accurate than everything you said. I can guarantee that. I have actual evidence for the
Okay,
claims
send it
that
over.
I am making. But look,
Send it over.
I agree. I agree that
Send it over.
automation can have.
I
can
know
have
you
offsetting
agree.
effects
I
to the-
know that you agree. I understand that you agree.
Yeah.
You
okay.
keep saying,
So
I
can
agree,
please-
but.
Can I? Well, yeah. Because I agree, but
Because
I agree
your
that
first year of
automation can
econ
have.
stuff is cool, but it's not that. But you're literally just reading stuff out of a book that I've lived.
So let
True,
me
buddy.
just
True.
move this. All right, we only got a few minutes left before somebody wants to leave, and I know you want to talk about the Fed. Why don't you bring up the Fed and what
Let's
you want
go
to talk
to the
about there? Yeah, let's go to the Fed because I know Tyler's got a hard out in 8 minutes, but we're ending at a hard 30 mark here at the
Hard
next
R.
hour. Yeah, 30 mark at the longest for the rest of us. Go ahead with the Fed thing.
Yeah, I think Donald Trump the reports seem to suggest that he's been privately talking about firing Jerome Powell. In his first term, he publicly threatened Jerome Powell. I think he said even recently that he thinks Jerome Powell would leave if he asked him to. And I think the president should, I can grant unitary executive theory and say the president has the power to fire the Fed chair. That does not make it good to fire the Fed chair because you disagree with him on monetary policy. So the question I want to ask, and I want a clear answer, would you condemn at least Trump's action, maybe not condemn Trump holistically, but would you condemn the action of him firing Jerome Powell because he disagrees with him on monetary policy?
Who are you asking?
Both
to
of
a
you,
general topic.
conservatives.
Go ahead,
I
Tyler.
believe, I believe he
the-
meant Tyler.
I guess I'm a conservative now.
Yeah, there you go. You're the
I didn't
conservative
think.
now. Go
I
ahead.
don't think
Yeah,
he's very
I-
conservative, but
I condemn Trump daily. Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Go ahead.
So you would, if Trump fired Jerome Powell, you would be against that.
If he broke a rule
For
in doing
monetary policy
so,
reasons.
if he has, like again, he fired Comey because Comey lied to him. I thought it was kind of petty, but that was where I condemned it. It was petty and unwarranted, but like he had the authority to do it. It didn't fuck up the investigation. They got Mueller in there and shit. So I think that was fine. Ultimately, it would just depend on the context. Where if he just fucking outright fires him and says that's because I can and kiss my ass, everybody, then absolutely, yeah, I think he should bring that dude back from the MS-13 guy back from El Salvador as well. So I'm like, I'll condemn that shit easy.
Grid, do you stand with Jerome Powell?
Grid.
I'm sorry. Which part am I supposed to be mad about with Jerome Powell?
If Trump fires him,
No.
because
I
Trump
understand the question.
want-
Which part should I be mad about?
the
I'm
fact
not
that
mad
Trump
about it.
interfered
I don't
with
care.
monetary
It
policy.
honestly doesn't matter to me one way or the other. I think it's within his power. If he wants to do it, he can do it. He doesn't even need to. Honestly, I don't even know that he needs to articulate a reason for doing so.
Okay,
He
so
could
would
literally say,
obviously
"I
agree that
don't
not
like
everything
blue
within the
fucking
president's
shirts,
power
and you wore
to
a
do
blue
is good,
fucking shirt
right?
today." And you're
Grid,
out.
you would obviously agree that not everything that is within the president's power to do is good, right?
If it's not good, then why would it be within his power? That's an insane.
What?
That's an insane statement.
Wait, hold on.
Just
Whoa,
because he can
if
nuke the whole entire world,
everything
it doesn't
within
mean
the
that it's not
presidential
bad, you know?
power
What if
is
the president
good,
nukes
dang.
Chicago?
And if the president can
Oh,
do it,
True.
apparently
And then
it's
they should
good
like
to
nuke
do.
specifically Gibbs' house.
No, I don't live in Chicago, thank God.
Oh,
but-
okay.
okay. Go ahead.
I
Yeah,
mean,
but great. I don't know that I agree with that. Everything the president can do is good. Well, like, all right, I'll use those.
well, I can't say that it's good or bad. But you're
So, like,
literally asking me, is it good if he has his power? If it wasn't good, then he wouldn't have the power by definition. Right?
Well, hold
I
on,
mean,
hold on.
he
I got this,
right
lefties. Let me fight with it.
Yeah, you fight for us.
Fight with me, bro.
I'm a conservative, and I'm from Texas. We don't like big government here. I'm not a libertarian,
I hate
though.
big
I know people
government.
think yeah, we don't like it. So Elon and you know, he big old guy. He comes in, talks to Trump. They set up Doge. Now, I initially have said I am hesitant about Doge because, hey, you know, it's not necessarily what they do with it; it's what the people after them do with it. Because just because they have the power doesn't mean it's good. If you get a president that's like the antithesis to everything USA, than like when Biden was in there, because Biden had the powers, everything he was doing was good. I think no. I would think you would think no. Why would you say that just because they're president, the power
That
is
wasn't
good?
the question.
I'm confused.
The
Okay, well,
question
maybe
was,
explain
is it
the
good that
logic
he
there.
has that power to do so? I said if he doesn't
No,
have the
my question
power,
was
then if he
specifically
has
if
the
he
power, then it must
exercised.
it must be at least good,
No,
right?
Grid. I said I
If
granted
not,
full-on unitary
then remove the
degree.
power.
No, Grid. So I said. So to be clear, I don't think Trump actually does legally have this power. But
He
I said,
doesn't.
I'll
Well,
grant
hold
you
on. I thought that
unitary
was the first thing you
executive.
said
I will
was
grant
you
you
felt
that.
like
No, he was posing the
Well,
question that way to kind of get into like a conversation about
okay,
that.
I got you.
My question was specifically, let's say Trump exercised the power that I'm granting, that he has the legal right to fire Jerome Powell, but only because he disagreed with Jerome Powell's monetary policy decisions. Would you condemn that action?
Hold on. So if I have the power to fire somebody and I disagree with their actions and I fire them, why would I disagree with that?
Because
you
the
wouldn't-
president probably should not have control over monetary policy. Do you agree with that?
The president should not have direct control over monetary policy. But then again, I don't think the Fed in and of itself should exist. So I think you've got me in a bit of a conundrum here.
Oh, there shouldn't be a central bank of the United States.
Let's pause that. We'll come back to that in a second. Tyler, you need an outro. Go ahead and give your outro.
I'll need an outro after, by the way, as well.
Sure, and then we can get it, and that's fine.
I get
Go ahead.
supposed to get ready for my show, but fuck it, I don't care.
Well, that's fine. We'll just end it there then. Go ahead. We'll all do outros. Give closing. That's fine. I thought I had one more thing we could go into, but that's okay. We've had a good panel. Go ahead. Start us off, Tyler, with your outro, and we'll just go around the bottom and come back up.
Average debate enjoyer. We're going over to right now my Discord to review debates. It's kind of an EFAP style. Pause whenever somebody has an idea. All sorts of shit. If you want to check that out, I'm going to be streaming that, and then we're doing poker night tonight, 11 to 1. That was an open invite for streamers. If you want, just send me a DM. I'll get you in.
All right. Thank you so much, Nonfon.
I'm Nonfon. I stream on Twitch and Kick on Nonfon420 and YouTube at Nonfon. You should all check out my YouTube channel and watch all the edited debates that I have arguing with all these people about whether tariffs are good or bad and about Trump's tax cuts and all that jazz. Trump's attacks on the Federal Reserve's independence is bad. Trump's tariffs are bad. We didn't talk about the budget or anything, but I think most of the cuts that conservatives, MAGA people want to make to welfare is bad. Yeah.
Those were that immigration were the next two things I want to hit, but that's okay. Here, you are also just doing something, and I was watching it a little bit last night. Why don't you tell them about that too before we let you go?
Oh yeah, I'm actually right after this. I'm going to go edit that. But I did a panel with Sarah the Raging Tomato, where it was an open panel, and a bunch of people came on to yell at me about why tariffs are good, and I epically owned every single one of them.
Get they asses, bro.
It was I don't know if I agree with him on all the points, but he was put on a decent show. Thorn, go ahead.
I'm twitch.tv/the Thorn Horn. I like jumping in with like little quick bits and stuff. I wasn't as prepared. This was kind of like 1 hour before.
It was.
Kind of got pulled in. But I enjoyed kind of talking with you guys, listening to different points. I had no idea about like the protests and the big like stock dip in China. That was something that just was not even on my radar. So that was interesting to actually learn about that and stuff. So really appreciate being able to be on here and talk with you guys. Yeah,
I appreciate you coming, especially last minute. I had to replace so many people for this panel, all last minute in the last 48 hours, and you came through in the clutch. But two people that we didn't have to replace. They've been reliable from day one. Wick is one of them. Go ahead, Wick.
When I say I do something, I try my best to do it. First of all, Testicle Johnson for $2 to Thorn W. So there you go, Thorn. And that's for Testicle Johnson there. Keep giving me your money. And we'll get to Super Chats after I leave these gentlemen before I leave entirely for the night. But I'm Wick. You can find me at Wick TV on all platforms, at least Kick, Twitch, and YouTube. I do debates. I host them, and sometimes every once in a while I'll jump in. It's fun. Next week, we got some great stuff coming up, okay? I'm going on Sarah the Raging Tomato show as well on Monday, teaming up with Soy Pill to debate, I don't know, some cucks about gender roles. It should be fun. I don't actually know who they are. I should probably find out their names. I just don't care enough. On Wednesday, we're going to have a talk about, is the American empire over? Is America's downfall here? And we're going to have some great guests for that. We're going to have Big Papa Buckaroo. We're going to have Visora. We're going to have New York Shade. We're going to have maybe Mooncake. It should be fun. I might have other stuff coming up next week. We'll find out. But tune in, check me out. And Gibbs, thank you for hosting.
Thanks for coming. Yeah, and the answer to the question, I'll go ahead and tell you no. It's no. Now, tell you now it's no, because God damn it, the new American empire is rising, baby. And on to the other reliable one, Grid.
Yeah, so I'm a Grid One Motorsports. I have the channel An Unreasonable Man on YouTube. I used to stream to Twitch, but Twitch is boring, so I don't do that anymore. You can find me there. I will be back live again in just right around an hour. Tonight I have a guest, Dina, something or the other, that makes movies. I don't know, kind of famous. I don't know how famous she is or isn't, but she's going to be a cool guest because she's awesome. I do guests, I do interviews, I do political commentary and satire, and I occasionally debate. I have a debate show on Saturday night where you can win money. By the way, Non-Fun, I missed you last week. I thought you were. I saw you in the chat, and then you dipped.
I know. I didn't go up. I should have.
You should have. You could have won $100.
Forget what happened.
It's $100 cash.
I should have.
And anyway,
now-
so
I don't know.
always
I
next
think
time.
I think it was editing stuff. I think I woke up like super late that day. I don't know.
I got you.
Didn't do it, unfortunately.
I'm sure there will be more opportunities for y'all to yell.
Yeah,
at each other.
every Saturday night, I fired up around somewhere between 8:30 and 9:30 whenever I feel like it, and we go until we have one man standing, and it's cool. It's 5-minute blood sport debating. You do not get you get 1 minute to state your position, 5 minutes in the ring, and then you're done. No long-winded speeches except this one. Anyway,
Thank you so.
come check it out, man. It'd be great.
Yeah, thanks all everybody for being here. I appreciate y'all, especially you two staying in through it while we had to get some new people in. Yeah, and thanks for y'all being here, and y'all have a good rest of y'all's night. I'll let y'all go. For the rest of us, we're gonna be on. Me and Thorne will be on a show here in about an hour and a half. We're gonna be on Modi 201's comedy dating show. It's gonna be really funny. If you've never seen us, we usually dress up as characters and do wild shit. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Always do a bit.
Excited, but yeah, it'll be good. It'll be funny.
What Scarlett are you dressing like tonight?
I haven't I haven't decided yet. I got a whole bunch of new stuff.
Yeah.
And I did find out that my Trump was right about everything hat was made in China, which is kind of funny. But that's probably because it's not an official one. I have the official ones down below. Yeah, there you go. That's a good one too. I also got a shirt, the one where he's like doing the little arrow.
That one's signed by the Nuge, bro.
Yeah, but the dating shows are fun. They're pretty humorous if you've never seen them. It's nice, like light fare. As opposed to like all the serious shit all the time.
Yeah.
But we'll probably stream it through. We'll probably stream for the next night and a half until then. Just rage. Ads, by the way, guys. If y'all don't like subs, I highly recommend buying Twitch Turbo. Twitch streamers make a shitload of money on that. Make it like you get like for an hour. If you're watching, we make like 40 cents. That doesn't sound like a lot, but if you got to do a 4-hour stream, we're making about the same off of one person doing Twitch Turbo as they would if they subbed the channel. So that shit makes quite a bit of money, especially if you tune in multiple days in a row. But yeah. Anyway, I think that's all I got for announcements. Y'all are welcome to stick around and hang out for a bit. Yeah,
I'll hang out for a minute. I've got to get ready for my show, but it's
Sure,
easy for me. I'm already set, man. I'm already set. I'm in the zone.
Yeah, let me know the details on your debate show. I might be down to come on one day when I'm not out drinking on a Saturday. I like to go and party on my Saturday sometimes.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
It's good times. Or I just do games. I don't know how people do politics every day on here and not just like want to snap.
Well, I have a
feel
lot
like
of fun
people
with it, obviously.
Yeah, I do as well, but still.
But dude, I don't know, man. Tonight was weird because anytime I wanted to dive deep into something, they just repeated the same thing over and over.
I'll tell you what, I'm glad Thorne was available because I originally it was going to be you and Wick
Where's my
versus.
third?
Well, that's what I was about to tell you. So originally it was going to be you and Wick versus, or you. It was going to be
Me and
Wick
Wick?
and no, Wick and Econoboy versus you and Abby, right? And
Okay.
Abby is a high level executive, right? She's one of the fastest of people, and so she texted me. I was like, I can be there at 5:30. and then she never got here, and I was like, well, shit. I got 3, and so I brought Tyler in last minute because I thought it was gonna be like 3 and 3 because I'd gotten 2 people that wanted to fill in. Well, then of course, one of those people drops, and I'm like, oh well, Tyler will be here, and Grid's always reliable, and yeah, and Abby, I'll just call like if she's gone, like I can just get her on the phone, and she's like, yeah, I'm running late, I'll be there like that. And she's always never been missed before, but life happens. So I was like, oh well, there goes her third. And I would say she's more conservative. And then on Thorn here, I asked Thorn an hour before because one of my other lefty econ people dropped, and I was like,
Bill.
yeah, Soy Pill was a replacement for Econoboy.
Oh, I thought Non-Fon was a replacement for.
Yeah, well, Non-Fon was the replacement. Well, yeah, but Soy Pill. So yeah, he was the other one, and then he dropped, and I was like, son of a bitch. Now I got 3, and then I asked Thorn, and then Abby didn't show up. Like, well, I went from having 3 on one side, 2 on the other. I even had notes ready. I was going to argue as a lefty if I had to fill in, and because I try to keep each side fair, and then
the arguments that Non-Fon continuously uses is like out of a first year econ textbook. It's like,
well, I have the textbook he has. Thank you so much for the raid, Rick. I have the textbook. It's right behind me. I have it. Yeah, we've even talked about it. It's the same edition as mine. It's not even like one of the newer ones. I mean, this is what I keep saying. I said Non-Fon's is going to be a Democrat until he makes money. And just be a couple of it. I don't know what happened to Thorn here. What happened to you?
What? Oh yeah. My econ just went specifically into real estate stuff, and I go very micro into that. So that's kind of where my econ went with it. And I mean, I had a lot of oddball jobs that happened. So if you don't use it, you lose it, sort of stuff for a lot of that stuff. But general concepts and stuff, I still kind of keep in there. And I don't know, on a daily basis, I work on multilinear regression analysis for determining real estate prices and stuff like that. So
I do. So I have have I ever told you this? I don't. We're probably still. I know we're still live on my channel. But I don't know.
We are still live on my channel.
They've already heard all this.
I'm going to stay live. I'm just killing time now.
I don't know if you know this, but I've got I have a real estate investment fund, and it renews.
Yeah, we talked about this.
It does every 2 years, right? Yeah. So and then I own 4 properties in China.
Okay.
I wanted to buy. I'm looking at buying property in Japan, but Japan is such a weird market. Like all the things that I'm like, yes, that's a good buy. They're like, nah, it's never going to sell, man. It's not going to.
Yeah, they're a completely inverse market to any other place in the world.
It's so weird.
And it's just so weird.
What do you mean by that?
So
give me an example. I hate to be give me an example, but I don't even have an idea what you're talking about.
The most important factor in a Japanese house is which way it faces and how far it is from the train station. They literally tell you it's a 10-minute walk to whatever the local rail station is.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of what they have here, right? With you're whatever distance from school, you're whatever distance from.
Yeah, they don't care about school.
The linkage of it. No,
they don't.
On Zillow, Zillow.
Yeah,
right.
it's a specific thing in the United States where it's whatever your school, if it's a good school or whatever.
I would say that because it's comparable, right? Because they're they care about public transit more than they would.
Yeah,
the linkage is more heavily weighted towards the transit than it is to schools or whatever as a comparative value to that. That makes sense. I think a big part of why Japan's so weird really has to do with their aging population and that stuff. That's the inverted triangle for population growth and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's a huge reason why it's so
empty
weird
houses
there.
There are houses that are just there's blocks of houses that are empty, and I can buy them for 150 US.
Yeah,
or less.
So what you're saying is we should all get breeding visas for Japan.
Exactly. That's what we need. We're the studs.
They were paying dudes to go, but you have to meet a certain profile. You have to meet a profile, and if you qualify, you.
Yeah, I mean, I got red hair, blue eyes. I fit every profile.
I don't think you're in that profile. But
they love it. They want the Viking blood.
You're not that guy, pal.
You're not that guy.
Not that guy.
It was interesting that Non-Fon only wants to talk about what's in his textbook. And when I started pressing him on, do you know why this happens? He's like, well, it's just this linear. It's the curve of machinery makes things easier until it becomes so easy that you don't need people anymore or as many people, and then there are less jobs. But that's not why Germany and those countries actually lost manufacturing jobs.
So were you here on Primes last week when we were arguing?
No, man,
don't
I
think you
couldn't
were.
be.
I
I
wish you
wanted
were
to be, but
because
my kid was doing a violin thing.
No, I understand. Yeah, but I needed you on this one because I think you and I have a similar mindset when it comes to you're much more willing to trust someone at a macro level. That's someone that's got proven experience at a micro level than someone who's just a theorist, right? Because like theory's all well and good until you get punched in the face, right? And so I'm much more willing to trust someone.
Money.
Yeah, well, same thing. It feels like I feel like I'm getting punched in the face every day. But it's like, so we're sitting here going, I've said this, and they're like, oh, well, you're just making fun of it. And I'm like, well, listen, just because y'all are all hoity-toity, educated men, I don't know that that's the all be-all, end-all, be-all. I'm pretty educated myself, right? But I don't think that I got my economic knowledge from a textbook. In fact, I read textbooks and I'm like, you're wrong all the time.
I can't.
Like,
I have to be honest. I come into these confrontations with Wick and Non-Fawn in a very specific way because I can't take either of them seriously. Right? Neither. I doubt seriously that Wick has started a business, grown it, gone bankrupt, and had to start over again. And I know
that's awful.
I know Non-Fawn has it. And so you can't, and it's not like it's unfortunate because it is a walk 1,000 miles in my shoes sort of fallacy, but I just can't take them seriously because they don't deep dive into why culturally. Why did the factories move out of Germany? Well, I actually know why because at the time I was involved with Porsche, and Porsche literally moved all production of the Boxster, their brand new car that Germany was counting on to support. The labor unions were counting on production of that car in Germany to actually be able to pay all of their union dues and everything. And they moved it to fucking Finland, dude. Like that was crazy. And it caused a bunch of stir in Finland. And Mercedes has moved plants to the US. I think there's one in Brazil now, and I think there's one or two in China. BMW has plants in China and the U.S. So while I don't agree with globalization on a government level, certainly I understand why Germany wants to make their cars here now, right? Because German cars have always been super expensive because they have to pay their government such a high tax rate. Like they think coming here is getting a discount, which is insane. And some of the stuff Wick says is just fucking insane. Like I don't know, is he high or what?
I don't know that he does anything. I mean, I'm stoned all the time, and I feel like I make a lot of
does for sure. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's very interesting to me. I got to jump off though. I got to get ready for my show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I haven't heard back from my guest tonight, which always makes me really fucking nervous. Right?
Yeah, I feel that.
You've been there? And,
yeah.
And so I got to go take care of that. But you guys have been cool. It was good to meet you, Thorin, son of
the Thornhorn. Yeah.
Thorin, son of whatever from the Lord of the Rings. Is that's
what? No, it's just I just thought that it was a cool name in middle school and I stuck with it. So it's just Thornhorn. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, all right. Well, it's interesting. I think that I wasn't able to interact with Non-Fawn on the Raging Tomato last night because I had to help my kid with his homework. So anyway, that was annoying too because I really wanted to go up there, especially when the Furby started screeching. That was not as cool. All right. Well, anyway, I'm gonna go. You guys have fun. Be cool, and do good stuff. See you, man.
You be good.
Absolutely, I will.
We're gonna have an episode of How Toxic is Gibbs right now. Is what's about to happen after you leave. You be good.
How toxic is Gibbs? Not very right now. He's really
extremely toxic.
Wait.
Yeah, y'all about to find out.
Okay, let's
The
go.
Latino side's about to come out. We're about to do some really funny fucking shit
I'm-
here in the next like 30 seconds.
I'm apparently very
Uh,
toxic, but that's okay because I'm cool. So.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
am.
he's just a
I
cool
am.
guy.
I think
Just a
when we're
chill
talking
guy.
about toxic, we're talking about different things. I gotta be honest, but
Oh, I forgot to tell Wick not to take anything personally. That when I called him stupid and dumb and all those other
yeah,
things,
he'll be
it's part
fine.
of the
I'm sure
show.
you can just message him. He'll be fine. He understands how
I'm
it
not
works.
going to message Wick.
I am. It's fun to see Wick doing more of these panels instead of moderating because I feel like when I watched him on Tim Pool, you could tell he's used to moderating.
Well, he's
And
used to
like
muting
he's
people, and when he can't
yeah,
do that, it just fucks him up.
well, he worked. I mean, he's working on. I think he did good today. I like seeing him on more of these panels where he's the person. I like to see. I personally like doing both. I like to like go on shows and like be the person, and then I like to moderate.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's different challenges.
And
But I know you got to
produce,
get out of
yeah.
here.
I really
Yeah.
got to go now. See you guys. Fucking hell. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, there will be a short break while I try and figure out if I have I figure out if I have a guest tonight. I'm going to end this stream, ladies and gentlemen that are still here, all 9 of you. Go watch Fabian Liberty doing bad things to Jim Bob, or Jim Bob doing bad things to Fabian Liberty. You guys have fun. I got to go get a small bite to eat. And that was an interesting debate. And I think it really fucked with Wick that I kept telling him to shut his fucking mouth. I don't know. We'll talk about it in the show coming up. You guys have fun. I'll be back in 20. I'll be back in 22 minutes. Or no, 12 minutes. I'll be back in 12 minutes. See you guys.